Good evening, everyone. Tonight we are going to address men's mental health. We did this before. We're going to do it again. We are in need of discussion here. 43% of boys are raised by single mothers. 78% of teachers are female. So close to 50% of boys have 100% feminine influence at home and 80% feminine influence at school. The modern world, folks, toxic masculinity isn't the problem. The lack of masculinity is, especially in our homes. I want to welcome everybody to the show. Thank you for joining me tonight. It's your boy Culture. Thanks for stopping by Culture Invasion. I'm back from vacation, y'all. I've had some fun. I have explored a new frontier personally, and I'm here to talk about it tonight with a very special friend and guest of the show, one of my buddies, Mountain Chad.
Hey, how's everybody doing? How you doing, man? It's good to be here.
Well.
It's been a long time.
Doing well, my friend. Doing well. I'm glad to see you tonight. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for being the co-host of the show.
Hell yeah. And that graphic that you read in the beginning is dead right.
Yeah.
Not having any male influence in your life, it's got to be fucking rough.
Yeah, absolutely. And tonight I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what we as men not should, but what we need to do to be that positive masculine role model in life, be it mentorship, be it a father, an active father. We're not going to address the layers of the onion so much that go along with those dynamics within like the father role and the courts systems, etc. We're going to touch upon it, but being a man, having a frontier, and standing your ground as a man, on your foundations, on your square, however you want to put it, those are the things that really are lacking. And I see it. I've seen it in my own family. I've seen it in my own friends and associates. So we need to talk about it. We need to talk about a new frontier. We need to talk about leadership. We need to talk about what that looks like. So to start off with, we're here on an adventure, right? A lot of times the word NPC is thrown around as we refer to society as a whole. Our best goal in life is not to be an NPC. It's not to be just a player in the game, but to have our own distinct winning character sheet. Okay, we're gonna use a little bit of an analogy here tonight. We're gonna think character sheets. Think D&D tabletop. Think your favorite video game. Your character has a set of qualities, right? Your character is going through an entire adventure where they are building who they are as a character. Ask yourself, my friends in the audience, gentlemen, what does your character sheet look like? What does your, what do your stats look like? So let me ask you, Mountain Chad, what do your stats look like? I mean, what has your life adventure been like, if you could sum it up?
Yeah, Jesus. I do think of things in video game terms. I think that's been actually really useful to me. I think video games have taught me so much about the world and about myself. Video games have been an excellent vehicle for training certain skills, particularly dealing with other people. If you're playing that type of game,
yes,
negotiating, and at a very young age, video games taught me how to type.
Yes.
So playing games where there was no voice chat taught me how to type, and then playing games where you had to cooperate with people, especially in like PvP scenarios, that will teach you how to negotiate real quickly, especially if you're the weaker character. You need to negotiate your own survival. And that teaches you how to negotiate from a position of disadvantage, which is very useful. But then even more useful is learning how to negotiate from a position of advantage. So if you're winning and you have the stronger position, you need to understand the nuance of negotiation enough to really crank that lever and get the best out of it. And then that's applicable throughout life. All interactions are a negotiation. Everything.
Absolutely.
And it's not
Absolutely.
just at work, it's with your loved ones, it's with your family members, it's with your friends, everybody.
Agreed. Agreed. And even within that, you have all kinds of management, right? You have
Oh,
to
yeah.
manage your resources, you have to manage your funds in video games, you have to manage other assets that go along with the play style, right?
World of Warcraft taught me supply and demand economics. It taught me how to it taught me that I love wheeling and dealing. I love trading. I love negotiating. And if I need to, I can trick people who are not as smart as me.
And even within that, it's negotiation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So,
Oh man.
so when we're,
So
yeah, go ahead.
so like an overall character sheet, um, I'm a very big believer in that you have to make conscious decisions of where you put your points, and then that necessarily means that you're deciding where not to put your points.
Right.
And so some things we're just born with, and
Mhm.
it just is what it is. Some people, I'm 6'4". I drank a lot of milk growing up. I ate a lot of food. I ate my parents out of house and home, but I was never going to be 5'1". And a guy who's 5'1", he could drink a lot of milk and swim every day, and he could maybe be 5'5", but he's never going to be 6'5".
Right.
So one of the beauties of the more mental side of our stat sheet is that a lot of people with a non-physical weakness,
Mhm.
that weakness ends up being their strength because they hyper focus on it. I was illiterate until I was 14 years old. And then the floodgates broke after 8 years of rigorous work, seeing tutors every day and going to a private school for kids with learning disabilities to learn how to read. 8 years of that, the floodgates finally broke in the summer between eighth grade and ninth grade. I read for the first time. I
Mhm.
realized how powerful this skill was and how everyone else it came naturally to them, so they didn't appreciate it. And then
Right.
I fucking dedicated myself to it. And it still takes me a week or two to read a book. I still have terrible comprehension. I still can't spell if my life depends on it. But I read way more than the average person, even though the average person can do the same amount of reading with 1/10 the effort. So, like, we have the choice. We get the opportunity to hyper focus on our weaknesses and turn them into strengths if that's a valid option. Again, the guy who's 5'1", he's never going to be 6'5", and it's probably a waste of time for him to try to be in the NBA. But the guy who maybe doesn't read so well can hyper focus on reading, and 10 or 20 years later, he can be better read than his peers.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Um, yes, I would say that over time, I've put a high amount of character stats into intelligence, um, and pulling from the same kind of we have so many parallels, right? And that's why we get along so well, especially from like the video gaming angle. Those character stats kind of pour into intelligence and pour into communication and pour into leadership. And those are the things that have helped me through life. I didn't talk regularly till I was maybe about 3 years old. I don't know if it was a shyness thing or what it was. But I do know that I spent a great deal of time as a kid, baby culture, um, watching, learning by watching humans, watching other adults, watching people interact.
Yeah.
And um, that helped build those negotiation skills, those socialization skills, um, to better engage in the rest of the world. My naivete was way off the charts.
Same, same. Yeah. I was really easy to trick.
Oh man, as a kid,
Yeah.
my naivete was off the charts. I mean, it was just, rose-colored rainbows and, back when, well, never mind. Back when rainbows were for everybody. But, it was just everything was sunny and shiny everywhere. I guess I owe that to a little bit of a sheltered life from the parents, but yeah, that character stat quickly went down as I got older.
I was definitely very naive, and I was
Yeah.
also a very angry child, and I was also gigantic. And so it was really easy to trick me, but nobody would trick me twice because I didn't have any other means of solving problems other than violence. I was like 6 foot tall and 200 pounds in middle school. So I was like literally fighting children.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. I've seen pictures of me from middle school. I look like the janitor, like stepped into the picture as a joke. Like, who's that grown ass man?
Right. Oh, you're the grown ass man.
Yeah, exactly. Who's that 40-year-old man with a mustache
The
in
grown
this
ass kid.
seventh grade class? So I didn't have any ability to solve problems verbally. I didn't, because when you're illiterate, I had an IQ, or I mean, I had a vocabulary of probably less than 200 words. So I couldn't put together any nuanced thoughts. And you certainly can't defend yourself verbally.
Right.
And so if somebody came at me in a way that offended me, I didn't have any other choice. Yeah. It was either do nothing or violence.
Fall back on the
And
violence.
yeah, exactly. And then people learn really quickly, like, hey, that giant dude, he's not going to take a joke well.
Real quick here before we continue to look at like our personal hobbies and carry on. Want to say what's up to the audience. We got Mature Gamer out there. Thank you for joining, man. Appreciate you. Bronze Flat Power God, salute, man. Thank you for being here. And of course, Twin Power out here on YouTube. Thanks for supporting me, Bronze.
The
One
OGs.
love, and big ups to all you guys.
Yeah.
So,
Mature Gamer said, WoW taught me working with others and group dynamics. WoW really,
absolutely.
really taught me how to wheel and deal. And this was before any bots or any automated systems. There was like a 18-month period in high school where I played World of Warcraft 20 hours a day.
Mhm.
I used to get home from school, play until like 6 a.m., pretend to wake up, go to school, hang out with my friends that I've been playing all night with, come home from school and get right back on WoW. I did that for like 18
I
months.
forgot our age difference, right? So at the time that WoW was at its peak, I think it was maybe the second or third update, like the Wrath of Lich
It was
King.
like 2006, 2007.
I was running a private server. I was running a private server with my buddy Dankwow at the time.
That's
Um,
great.
it was awesome. It was an awesome time, man. I had the server in the basement when he went through phases and he moved and we brought it over to my place. We hooked it up and we were just going crazy. It was an awesome time. It was
I
an
actually
awesome.
recently built a private server on my coding machine, just for fun,
Mhm.
just as like an SQL project, really.
Yeah.
And I'm having more fun playing on the private server than I ever had on real WoW.
I have
WoW
to
with GM commands is a fucking great game.
I have to be absolutely honest. It is, and that is where I started to learn my DBA experience, and that's where I got my first experience to SQL. Absolutely, and there's so much if you dive into something and you actually embrace it as a frontier. There is so
Yes.
much that you can learn. There is so much you can learn. Speaking of frontiers, hobbies. Hobbies are a frontier that so many individuals do not embrace. Now, I'm going to go back to like the DEI, ESG, and whatever Hydra it's become now, and revisit the topic of the North Face, stating that whites need to embrace blacks and bring them into the
The
folds,
whites.
the whites into the folds of the
Those
outdoors.
goddamn whites.
Because the white people are keeping black people from camping or some such
Yeah, that's
nonsense.
right. That's
Yeah,
right. Stay out of trees. We the trees belong to us.
stay out of the trees. I can go halfway into the forest since I'm mixed, but it's
No,
like
you can just look at it out the window.
Just look at I like to camp. I like the outdoors. My family, part of my family is from a third world nation that is, kind of a rainforest and has a lot of nature and is very country. Um, that is ingrained in me. I have gear I can throw in the back of my car at any point in time and hit the trail if I want to. That's I enjoy nature. I enjoy
Yes, it's
stuff.
beautiful.
I'm not gonna, belate that or stay on that topic. Let's move on. But with hobbies, like I've always been a tinkerer since I was a kid. When you mentioned computers first taught you how to spell, I was a kid on an Apple IIe
Type,
2 Plus.
type.
Yeah. Oh, type.
Yeah, I still can't spell. If you put a gun to my head, I couldn't spell embarrassed.
Now I did have a bit of dyslexia, and it still creeps up every now and then. So, man, I
Embarrassed,
agree with you.
guarantee, a
Hiking
whole
is
bunch
white
of
people
words.
shit.
Hiking is white people's shit.
Yeah. But yeah, I've always been a tinkerer, and I started out on like the Apple II Plus 2e, and I found out that you can open one of those when I was a kid, and I saw the circuit boards and all the logic chips and all the memory chips on all the boards, and I had to know. I had to know how all this works. So at a young age, I was a tinkerer, and then there was also positive male images in my life. So as a young child, I was always the assistant. We're going to wake up at 6 o'clock. We're going to go work in the garden. We're going to wake up at 6 o'clock. We're going to go work on the Jeep Cherokee. We're going to wake up and work on Grandpa's Lincoln. We're going to go over to Grandpa's house and we're going to learn how to change tires, as in off the rim, because they built their own equipment to pull the tires off the rim. So these were men that were heavy craftsmen. My grandfather was an engineer for, I think, TRW when it was around. He was a mechanical engineer. I still have all his micrometers and all of his tap die stuff and all of the things that he kept. My uncle is a welder by trade, instructor. He's a woodworker. He has basically he didn't buy cabinets. He built cabinets in his kitchen. He didn't buy a table. He laid tile in wood frame and built the stand that it stands on. There's no need to go buy things when you can create something from wood and from raw wood that is 10 times more valuable than anything you're going to buy at a big lots or big chain store these days, made in China, manufactured by 3 kids, and you put it together with 4 screws. That trash throwaway economy doesn't exist over there. And then my father was a jack of all trades. He was a duct tape, he's a duct tape liquid nails kind of guy in the end, but he's a jack of all trades. So I got exposed to all kinds of crafts from positive male images. So from that, I've been a tinkerer since I was a kid, grow up. And now I'm at the point where I just a year ago I found out that you can tear down Nerf blasters and mod them and hype them up and put hyper motors in these things and take down kids with 120 meters per second darts, man. I mean, that's like 90, 100 mile an hour darts flying through the air at kids. I mean, there's so much out there. I tinker with computers. I tinker with the Nerf stuff when I got time. And there's so much we have in our lives. Drones, photography. I fucking love photography.
I want to get into drones so badly. The first person view drones, where I'm sure you've seen the videos of them like flying them through abandoned buildings and doing
Yes.
crazy acrobatics.
Yes. Yes, bro. Yes. I want to do that too. I even Googled if there were mods for my Spark, like if I could hack the software or something and blah, 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 and make it faster or whatever.
That's one of the things that I'm like stubbornly avoiding. I don't know why. I'm procrastinating, holding off on. Something's telling me that I'm just not ready yet to get into that.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. Now, real quick story though about drones. I was over in St. Lucia on vacation, and I had no problems with my drone at all. For the first, I took a little bit of photo photography over my aunt's house, where my father grew up, the family estate, more or less, right? The family home where everyone grew up. Um, Flew the drone out over the water, all along the coastline, all kinds of awesome daring shots way up in the sky. A little blackbird tried to take it out, all kinds of awesome stuff. One night, my cousin was playing soccer and they were having a big thing. They had tents up, they had announcers. They had cars lined up all down the road. The whole town was coming together to watch the kids play soccer. They're out there having a great time. I'm like, I should have gone down there and hung out and watched them for a little while, but I was at my aunt's house and I can overlook the field from my aunt's house. No big deal. I said, let me fly the drone over. As soon as the drone lifted up, it took off on its own. I was fighting it. I was literally fighting this thing like somebody else had control of it. It decided that it wanted to go, just east of me in the end, because it flew way far away. I finally got it to come back. It decided then it wanted to go off again to the east of me. It landed in the parking lot, maybe 100 feet down the road, in the parking lot of the local fire department when the battery ran out.
That's lucky.
5 minutes later, a knock at the door. The fire marshal comes by. Excuse me, did you lose something? How in the world? I did. What did you lose? A drone. Small, white. The guy had pulled the memory card, watched the memory card, knew my auntie, brought the drone back to me. I didn't fly it at all after that. I was like, but
so
they were having GPS issues in the area. So
drones are very hackable. One of the companies that I interviewed for when I was still living in the DC area, they contracted with the Department of Defense to develop software to hack drones remotely. And I remember the interview went very poorly in the sense that I wasn't qualified, but it went very well in the sense that I was really curious about it and the guy was really happy to answer questions. So we just chatted about it for like an hour. And the gist is, he's like, drones are really easy to hack, and especially Chinese drones. He's like, and we can hack them from over the horizon. Yeah. I'm like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only hack, disable, take down the whole bit, man. Yeah. Yeah. It's all RF signals. It's all RF. So yeah, definitely. So hobbies. What's your horizon look like for hobbies?
I actually took up carpentry when I got back from China.
Nice.
And that has paired
Japanese intricate interlocking carpentry?
Fuck no. Yeah. Like earlier, like I told you, I needed to take a shower before this podcast because I was over at my other apartment because I just moved, and I build my own bed frames. I build my own tables and desks and whatnot. Sometimes you build things in such a way that you know it can and will be taken apart in the future. Sometimes you build it in a way where you know it will not be.
Exactly.
So I just spent the last couple of hours with a hammer and a circular saw taking shit apart. And wood. Okay, so I am also a creator. I love creating things.
Yes.
And I actually studied sculpture at university. Ceramic sculpture was my focus, but I also did stone carving. I did wood carving. I also did steel fabrication.
Stone carving.
Oh, it's so much fun.
That's impressive. That's impressive. That's something I've been kind of curious about.
You should get into it, like just with some soapstone and some steel tools, hand tools. You're surprised what you can do. But wood is the most beautiful material. It's so forgiving. It's so forgiving that a person who's never held a hammer before, who's never worked on a piece of wood in their life, they can set out with a goal, a simple goal, like let's build a table. And they can fuck up every step of the process and still come out the other side with a completely functional table. Wood is the most forgiving material on the planet. Everything else, ceramics, the greatest ceramic artists on the planet will still have like a 50% fail rate. And we're talking about pieces that they spent thousands of hours working on. Yeah, and we're talking about people
at the very end where something goes wrong at the very end and ruins the entire piece.
A tiny air bubble, and the entire piece goes off like a hand grenade inside the kiln.
Inside the kiln, yep.
And so people with 20 years of experience still can't reliably get the piece across the finish line. Wood, it's like, unless the building that you're working on the piece in catches fire, you're going to be all right, no matter what you're building.
You
And like,
gotta measure twice, cut once, but
yeah. I've cut this board 3 times and it's still not long enough. I don't get it. I mean, it's just the most beautiful material. So I got into woodworking when I got back from China because I felt like I needed a creative outlet. And then I picked that up at the same time that I picked up software. And they have been the most beautiful mirror. And the way that they mirror is in precision. So software is satisfying because you can get pixel perfect precision. You can make something exactly what you intend it to be. Pixel perfect precision is capable with software. However, when you're addressing issues, they're never direct, they're never linear. You never get to just point at something and go, that's the issue, and then fix it, because it's software. It's always this detective game of insinuation. And then woodworking is exactly the opposite. The greatest woodworkers on earth are still not able to create truly perfect pieces. It's always some degree of a mistake.
Mhm.
However, when you have a problem with woodworking, it is right there. That's the fucking problem. And usually you can solve the problem by hitting it with a hammer.
You
It's
ever watch
such a beautiful combination.
it is. You ever watch the guy that does the tables and countertop? I know he mostly does tables and custom tables. He'll just take a big slab of just ugly wood, dry it, sand it down,
And he
and
pours
then
epoxy in it.
pours epoxy in it. I've seen the epoxy guy, but then there's the other guy that just does pure woodworking. And every now and then he'll have a knot in the wood, or he'll have like an imperfection that's very, very tiny. And the guy will go get another piece of scrap wood, cut a dowel down just the perfect size, hammer it in, saw it down, sand it down, and then revarnish the thing. And you can almost you can never tell. You can
Yeah.
almost never tell that he patched that tiny piece of wood. One time he had a big chunk off the corner of a table, and he actually found another piece with similar grain and did the same thing and attached it to the side of the table and finished the product. But it's just amazing when you are an actual artist and you take your hobby seriously. The creations that you can come up with are just
Yeah.
amazing. And it doesn't, everybody's got a little flavor to whatever their hobby is. But even within myself, when I see some of the pictures that I've taken for friends, I'm like, I can't believe I actually captured that moment that well. And it's being immersed, and it's being able to sink yourself into that art, to whatever that hobby is.
Yeah. You know, I mean, like in a perfect world, I would win the lottery and then I would be able to just dump all my time into my hobbies. My hobbies have always been my primary interest, my primary motivation. Um, and
Mhm.
I've always had more interest than I've had time or dedication.
I kind of just hit that point in the last 5 years of my life. Before, I didn't so much. I felt like
Mm,
there was a lot of, to my early 20s was flip-flopping and searching and soul searching, and then, you kinda get caught up in the woman thing and the girlfriends, and you lose track of where you're supposed to be in life, and then you start getting into your career, and that's where I was. I was just, like, in that career cadence, that perpetual learning thing, and,
yeah.
perpetually going to school, and
Endless student syndrome.
endless student syndrome. Mhm, and, now we're at the point where I'm like, "Oh, so this is what relaxing with a career is like, and having a whole bunch of spare time every now and then where you can just do something else." So I've
Ugh.
overbooked myself. My ambition is kicking my ass.
I feel exactly the same way. Hence, all these different YouTube channels.
Yep.
Not to mention all the ones that you've never seen before. I had multiple podcasts while I was in China. I had a gaming channel. I had a vlogging channel. I had a channel where we did challenges like inspired by Top Gear,
Oh, nice.
Um, I had all these different things. It's because I can't, I often can't stop myself from the temptation of jumping on something new.
Yeah.
Some new idea. It's so exciting. And especially that first burst of energy you have, maybe it's 1 hour, maybe it's 10 hours,
Mhm.
but the progress that you can make in that first few hours is unbelievable. And
Mhm.
I have tried to consciously cultivate that sort of motivation. And it's been mostly a failure. I've had some success, but what I've tried to do is fill my plate with so many different interests and varied interests that at least one of them is at like a jackpot level motivation any given time.
Yeah.
And then I just jump uh, with fluidly, without schedule from one to the other. Now, most of the time it's a clusterfuck and it's just a waste of time and effort. But
Right.
sometimes it works really well.
Yeah.
Hello, cynical one.
Hey, cynical. How you doing? Let me.
And the software woodworking is a good example of that. When I came back from China and I moved back into my parents' place, and I would wake up in the morning, and my whole life was just workout, software, woodworking, and woodworking. The exercise and woodworking were just therapy.
Yes. Yes.
That's all they
Exercise is
were.
definitely therapy. I did. Wow. I'll need to look at my watch, but I think I did it a mile and a half or so before the podcast. Yesterday I worked out shoulders and arms. My chest hurts. Everything hurts. My neck is tight.
Yeah, no, tell me
but
about it.
but when you're in the zone, um, nothing can break it. Nothing can
Yeah,
break it. When I've got my camera in my hands and I see it in what I produce, nothing can break my concentration because that's my happy place. Um, Part of vacation, I just sat on the beach. I did not go to the main day of the parade for carnival. I sat on a beach where nobody was at because everybody's at carnival or bigger affairs. And it was just me, my camera, and the sunset, man. That's it. The water, the waves, the sand, me, and my camera. That's it. And my water bottle.
dude, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this:
Mhm.
Are you very content when you're alone?
I've learned, not learned, but I've become more comfortable in my own skin being alone over the past maybe 10 years.
Mm.
Part of that is I've part of that is something I've forgotten. I always wanted to be an only child kind of thing, and I was like I was a selfish kid, and I was like, "No, mom, no more babies, no." Um, because I wanted my parents to myself. But as I got older, I was always the first one. Jump out. The first one, jump through this, jump through that, do this, do that. I'm the oldest, so it's kind of like the first one out the nest. You know, I spread my wings and I fly. So being alone is just a part of self discovery. Being alone is a
Mm.
part of finding a new frontier. You're going to
It's a big
network
part of
along,
being a man.
right? It's a very big part. You're going to meet others along the way. You're going to network. You're going to have friends. You're going to have the golden ones. You're going to have the silver friends, but you're going to ultimately be alone. And
Yes.
over the past 10 years, and that's, out of a long relationship, um, I immediately sank into it and appreciated being alone. I wouldn't have developed my career. I wouldn't have had the time to develop my hobbies and immerse myself if I wasn't. Now, it's not to say that I wasn't dating it during that time, but I didn't have someone else living with me.
You
I
didn't
didn't
have
have
like a continual companion.
the continuous companion. Right, right. I stepped out of that, reacclimated myself to the real world outside of relationships and all the dating and all that crap. And then it was just, just date to date and not embrace it as the only function of life to chase women. Um,
That's
Focusing more on
so
myself.
it's so rough when men chase women at the exclusion of everything else. It's
Yes.
devastating.
And it's absolutely devastating, and I have seen, actually, that's pretty much all I've seen from most men,
Yeah,
in
it is.
social circles.
It is.
It
I've
is.
always loved the saying that if you're lonely when you're alone, then you're in bad company.
Absolutely.
You know, a man
Absolutely.
should be
You don't
enough
know
for
yourself.
himself. Every
Yep.
man should be enough for himself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because the men that came before us were terminally alone. You know,
Yep.
it's only modernity that tells us that we should always be with somebody.
Exactly. It's modernity that's thrust an extreme social climate upon us with the advent of social media.
Yeah.
That's we've never experienced that before. And when social
And
media
we've
we knew
always been social animals, but that
right.
doesn't mean that we've had continuous uh like somebody there physically. Here's a person right next to me. You know, for most of human history, I think men were in a community, but they were an individual who was alone 98% of the time within that community. A
Yes.
tiny percent of the time, maybe you were at church, maybe you were drinking a beer with some friends, or you were at work. Those are the only times that you were with another person.
Now I did watch an interesting What If Alt His tonight. He was talking about Ted
Oh,
Kaczynski. Um,
I watched it as well. I watched the
you
whole
watched
thing
it as
earlier.
well. Okay, so did you see
Yes,
the perspective? Yeah, that was a good
that
episode.
was a good one. That
Damn it.
guy's
I'm trying to
fantastic.
figure out how I can fit that in without looking weird because it's about Kaczynski.
I didn't realize he was a super genius, like
I didn't
160
either.
IQ.
I did not
He
either, and I
developed
didn't realize
new
how he was
forms of
brilliant.
mathematics that other mathematicians couldn't understand.
Right. Yeah, that was actually amazing. But the piece that kind of goes along with that was, that the cultures that were social, but they were a different kind of social to today because the workers relied on one another. There was a foreseeable growth there.
Yeah.
And you also had nuclear families, and you also had, religion and laws and structures that put boundaries on things, but there was more freedom essentially than we have
Yes.
today with all the regulations and government oversight and programs and programs and programs. Um,
I
but
didn't realize too. Sorry, go on.
no. But yes, the frontiers that men had to face, we were facing those alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even I love the point he made about like the craftsman back in the day versus the factory worker.
Putting a screw on a bolt every
Yeah,
day.
that's your whole life. You don't
That's
even
their
know
life.
who's buying the car. Meanwhile, the craftsman probably personally knows who's buying the carriage or whatever he's building.
Absolutely.
I also thought it was fascinating that Ted Kaczynski only decided to go on a killing spree when the government wouldn't fucking leave him alone. He tried to escape society multiple times,
Right.
and then each time society came and kicked his door down and kicked him in the nuts.
One of the big things
And
being a homesteader, where you can't really be a homesteader because you got government oversight because they want to tax you for this, they want to tax you for
yeah,
that, they want you to run your water off their system.
oh, property taxes are straight evil,
Yeah,
straight evil.
I've made my mind up. I have no intention of buying into that whole system in America ever again.
It
If
makes sense
I
not
buy
to.
a piece of something, it's going to be like a condo or something. I'm not. I'll never ever. I'll never buy feed into that system.
And then finally, his brother is the one who turned him in. What an asshole!
Brother did it right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I saw that.
Devastating.
Yeah. Devastating. But
Fucking brother.
and I and see, this is where I'm kind of like, do I want to say this? But I have to agree with What If Autist. I have to agree with him on this. I mean, that was an awesome episode to be debated. It was awesome.
What if Alt Hist is a fucking genius?
No, he is.
His
He's off the
perspectives.
charts too, and
Oh,
he tries to say it without bragging, but he's off the charts too.
his perspectives on history are so fucking on point. It's incredible.
Yeah,
And
he's well read, and it's
the way that he casually talks, the way
it just comes off of the top of his mind.
or the way he talks about his research, where he's like, I don't know much about psychology. I've only read like 40 or 50 books on it. It's
Right.
like, oh well,
Basically, every
yeah,
major manual that's out there, every major
yeah. So
medical manual
you've read
that's out
more
there.
than the average psychologist has.
Right. Yeah. He tries to be humble, but there's a certain tilt to his personality where he's just like, matter of fact, this is just the way it is. And I'm not perfect, but I've read over 50 books in this subject. Like, I think at that point, what he's looking at are all the layers of debate that can, center around something.
You know, he says things. Again, this is the dyslexia, the illiteracy coming up, but I really I'm very attracted to figures who are capable of saying things that I already know to be true, but I don't have the words for. That's like Jordan Peterson, for example.
Yes, agreed.
And when What If Alt Hist talks about the left versus right dynamic in this country, and when he talks about the possibility of civil war and the extreme political divide that we're in right now, and the overall trends of society relative to what they were, let's say, maybe in the 1930s,
Modernity.
it's terrifyingly prophetic.
Yes, my exact words. Agreed. That's exactly what I was
Yeah.
going to say. It is terrifyingly prophetic, and that's why I'm fascinated with the guy. I think he's great.
I know, right? Yeah.
It's great.
I'm so
Oh,
glad that we live in a golden age of thinkers right now. This is
it's
this
getting
is the
there.
best it's been since like the fucking 1900s.
Well, he talked about that too, and you have to weed through, right? Like, he's one, but we have to weed through,
Yeah. And then we
because
got
it's just
like
not,
who
it's
else would you list up there? Like, give me
well,
your top 5.
so okay, so I'm gonna start with him. I'm gonna put Peterson up there only for his mind, because he does have everybody's got views, right?
Well, he is Canadian.
It's maple syrup and things, man. 3 at 3, I'd put Wozniak. I definitely wouldn't put Gates. I would put Wozniak in there.
That's fair.
4, I'd probably go back in history. I'd probably pull from like a Frederick Douglass.
Somebody alive today, though.
Alive today.
Yeah,
No,
that you
stop it,
could
buddy.
watch on YouTube right now.
You're racking my brain for modernity, for modern day. I'll stop at 3. I'll stop at 3 because I think I've got a lot of bias. I may have to sort through my bias.
That's fair. Tell us about all the racist people you love.
Well, not even that, but my own personal bias against people's ideas. So I'm just like, yeah, I discount the individual, and I kind of have a snap judgment thing like that. I kind of knee jerk. I knee jerk at first on occasion. I don't know. I'm flipping it on you. I'm flipping it back.
Well, I love What If Altist.
Yes.
Jordan Peterson is fantastic.
Okay.
There's a YouTube channel called Exurb1A who makes philosophical content that is just staggering, a fucking staggering ability to pontificate on metaphysics.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever listened to this guy?
No.
Check him out. Check him out. They're long videos, and you really got to strap in for an experience. It's not the type of content that you can binge watch. You need to take a break after the video.
Right. Yeah.
Go for a walk and pet a dog.
Too. Yeah. It gets your mind going, and sometimes you have to go back.
I would put Thomas Sowell probably in my top 5.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, student of Milton Friedman, and that sort of school of economics seems to be the only type that sincerely makes sense.
Yes, and there's also a timeless nature about the facts that they bring to the table as well.
And he would have clearly been the first black president if he wasn't if the Democrats didn't hate him.
Yeah,
he was exiled by the Democrats 40 years ago. Otherwise, he would have been the first black president decades ago.
There's a timeless thing about economics. If you're someone who has a good grasp of it, it's much like economics follows history. So I'll just leave it at that. If you have a good handle on it, you've got a great perspective on things. And economics is not my strong suit.
Not mine either. I just like to listen to I like to listen to people talk about it. And I also think that history told by an economist is often the most accurate portrayal of history.
Okay.
Like we can look up 100 historians talking about the Atlantic slave trade, but I'd
Mhm.
much rather listen to an economist talk about it because they're going to talk about the fucking nuts and bolts.
God damn it, man. Because in the end, all it was, economics.
Well, it was a business, so
It was a
this
big
is
business.
that's what separated it from the slave trades around the world. If you're some Islamic king or emperor, you just point at somebody and say, "Hey, I need 10,000 more slaves, make it happen." And then that guy leaves with basically a blank check, and he's going to come back with 10,000 slaves. The details are irrelevant. Nobody's writing it down.
Right.
But
If you're declaring war on the neighboring nation or not, whatever it is, you just got 10,000 bodies there right there. But that's more of
but
like regional instead
if
of
you're running a business
local.
and your business has to make money, you have to
Mhm.
track every nickel and dime. And that's the only reason that we know so much about the Atlantic slave trade is because it was all business, so it had to make a profit. So they had to record every nickel and dime. So we know what people ate, we know what medicine they got, we know what bed they slept on, we know how many days of the week they worked. We know every fucking detail because of capitalism.
Yeah, the capitalism behind it. Yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. And that actually is providing me with something new to dive into. Learn something new every day. Look at it more from the economic point of view, man. You're a gift and a curse.
Have you read any Thomas Sowell's books?
No, but now I'm going to.
Here, let me
Um,
recommend a couple to you. I got a couple on my phone right now.
oh, you're awesome. And then we're going to go into talk about leadership a little bit and our personal experiences in leadership. And then we're going to react. We're going to look at a couple things that are on the radar.
Okay, I would say read Black Rednecks and White Liberals.
That's on my list.
It's a fucking great one.
I
It's
think
a
I have that on my list.
classic.
I think I have that on my list on Goodreads to read.
And then there's another book. It's The Economics. Oh, wait, no. Uh, what the hell was this one called? I think it's called The Economics and Politics of Race or something like that. Race and Economics. I don't remember.
Okay, I'll look it up.
But um, yeah, these are extremely controversial books, in my opinion, because they're very good.
And probably very real and gritty.
Yeah, very uncomfortable truths is what I
Mhm.
would call them.
Mhm.
What else? I think Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Oh, he's not alive anymore. Who else is alive right now?
Hey, Kiwi.
Hey, Kiwi. Yeah, that's probably all I got for now.
Drive safe, Kiwi.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's go into leadership.
Yeah.
What's your experience? What's your character sheet look like for leadership?
I don't mean to brag,
Oh,
but
uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I tend to be a man that other men want to follow. I don't always want to lead, but if I'm willing to lead, it's been my experience that the men around me are happy to follow me.
I have experienced the same thing. I have experienced the same thing. But it also has to do with where you're positioning yourself in society.
Yes.
Um,
Well, ooh, I'll do you one better.
okay.
Are you a man who's capable of recognizing when you'll be a more effective number two?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, that's yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think that comes along with emotional maturity and being humble to a degree.
Mhm.
Um, and understanding the dynamics of the situation as well, because it's very easy for me to fall to the back side of things and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do for you. You're the leader. utilize everything that I've got.
Yeah.
And boom, then I'm right there being the number one for that leader.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
I
like, sorry, go on.
no, I was going to say I actually learned that dynamic in a men's group, in a fraternity, because everyone's even. One person will conduct all the meetings for a year, but no man is better than anyone in that room. We've all been through the same thing. We're all going through the same thing. We're all learning the same things. No one's better than anyone else. So when the next guy is sitting in the boss's chair, you fall in line and everything works harmoniously. It's just you fall in line and you're leading your space because you have duties to accomplish within your
Yes.
capacity in that organization. And you are all men. You all have testosterone coursing through your veins. You all want to be regarded as important. You all want that friendship and unity, but you have to understand where things fall in order to push things forward and push the organization forward.
Yes. Uh, and you're damn right, Kiwi. You're absolutely right. Women want to follow leaders.
Yeah.
And it's have you ever heard the saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Ooh, yes. It's been a long time since I heard that.
And I think that's so critical. Two people are, once you bring up more than one person, you are more than the sum of your parts. You're not just doubly productive. You're, 4x. It's an exponential growth. As long as everyone's playing the ideal role for them. And so I enjoy leading and I enjoy being alone,
Mhm.
but it's almost more fun when I acknowledge that somebody's better than me in something. However,
Yes.
that person has some specific weakness, which is my strength.
Yes, yes, yes,
And
yes.
and
And you
then I can jump on board and
and
I
pop
can add like a really specific, really focused, but really high quality addition to whatever they're doing. And that's the experience I have with script writing. So I have a couple of directors that I'm working with right now,
Mhm.
and I don't want their job. I don't want to micromanage actors. I don't want to deal with producers. I don't want to be calling fucking studios. I do not want their position. And their position is the number one.
Mhm.
I am very happy to be the guy that they need to make their project. They
Absolutely.
want everyone else to be a part of it, but the
Yep,
script doesn't get written without me.
yep, yep. I am
And
the integral piece that props them up.
and it helps them go farther.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
we play on each other's strengths.
Absolutely.
So, in terms of leadership, I'm happy to lead if I genuinely think that I'm the best leader.
Mhm.
If I'm best suited for it. If my buddy next to me, if I genuinely think he's going to be better, I'm going to I'm going to at least expect him to. Now, we've all been in a situation where somebody sort of doesn't rise to the occasion, in
Mhm.
which case we'll make do and I'll do my best. But it's so complimentary that you can acknowledge someone else's strengths genuinely. Yeah, well, of course. I mean,
Absolutely. Mhm.
yeah, especially when you're like something making a movie is such a huge collaborative project. It's tremendous. We just finished a script for a movie called Maidstone that we're hoping to get funded soon. It took us like 2 years to write that, and it's going to involve probably 100 or 200 people by the time it's shot.
By the time it's
So
done. Right.
it's a tremendous collaborative effort, and it's only going to be something that's worth watching if everybody is filling in the role that they're most capable of.
Yeah. And together, I wanna make a comment. Men are born to lead. It's God's order. I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Kiwi agrees. Yeah. I have to say that, not only in the professional world, you say, "Oh, I've been a boss. I'm a manager." No, 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 no. There are other facets to life. There are other, family, being the leader of a family. Uh,
Well, even if you're a boss at a business, How do
Mhm.
your employees feel about you? I used to run a restaurant outside of DC. I had 25 employees. They loved me.
Very well. Yep,
You know,
yep.
it's not good enough to just good enough is not good enough. If good
Right.
enough is your benchmark, go fucking wash dishes
Which
because
is
the dishes only have to be good enough.
which is where I think a lot of people just wear that as a badge, you know,
Yeah,
and
they do.
blah, 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 you know, and it's not in the same spirit as we're speaking here.
Yeah, no, you have to rise to the occasion because you know, especially in a restaurant environment, it's a fact that the manager isn't working as hard in a very literal, like labor sense. I'm not working as hard as the guy who just made 150 pizzas before dinner rush. I'm not working as hard as the guy who is literally washing dishes from the moment he arrives to the moment he leaves and he works a 14-hour shift. I'm not working as hard as them. So, non labor value is what you need to add. And your non labor value needs to be fucking undeniable
Yep,
to the point
absolutely,
where all these people who are working harder than you objectively, they want you to be there. They're happy you're there.
absolutely. And one thing I've learned, okay, so yes, so to go back to my other point, it's not just within business world, but it's within all facets of life, but also the gratification that you get. So many people don't experience in seeing that what you've put together as a leader or what you've put together as an integral part leading in your own space, how that makes you feel at the end of the day.
Mm.
I know a lot of us get into cycles of life that aren't comfortable. So work is actually work and it's not something that we can appreciate or gain something from. But the gratification of leadership is not experienced by many at all. And that, you know, what you say about the restaurant work that you did and how the individuals loved you in return, that's the absolute best we can hope for.
Yeah.
That's the best we can hope for. That is the best turnout of that situation.
Yeah, it is. And I think you have to treat people with dignity and you have to acknowledge that they are people and they're working fucking hard.
Mhm.
At the same time, you have to have high expectations that are consistent. If any time that you're in a position of authority, inconsistency or uncertainty, the word maybe is a very destructive word.
It's very destructive.
Yes, no, I don't know. Those are the three available options. Yes, no,
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe is not really an option.
It's not.
And especially when I was a teacher, you should never ever say maybe to students.
No, you're giving them all kinds of bandwidth use.
Yeah. And it immediately undermines your position.
Yep.
You're the authority here. You're the fucking teacher. They hired you to teach.
Yep.
What do you mean, maybe?
There's no maybe.
Yeah, it's either yes, no, or you don't know. Those are the three options, and that goes for children as well. If you have children, I don't have children, but again, I was a teacher for many years. I had, yeah, in a sense, I had thousands of children. So,
Yeah. Chat's going bonkers. They agree. Language change is everything from Bronzebird.
yes, it is.
And we got Kiwi. Also, the way one communicates can either push someone further away.
It really, yeah, tone is a big part.
Mhm.
Well, again, that's going back to being a man. That's why stoicism is so important, is
It
because
is.
regardless of how we actually feel, you have to be able to control your outward expression of emotion. I have a
Absolutely.
girlfriend. She's very emotional. She's
Mhm.
an emotional woman. I cannot speak to her the way that she speaks to me. This relationship won't work because she speaks with emotion. She's not disrespectful, but
Mhm.
she's emotional.
Mhm.
You can't have two emotional people.
Mhm.
It's instantly a tornado.
Right. Right.
But if you are a castle, right?
Right.
She can be the storm and
And you
her
are
wind can
standing.
batter you and she can wet you with her rain, right? And she can be thunder and lightning. And
What you with the rain, huh?
when the storm settles, the castle is still there,
Absolutely.
unshaken. And that's what
Absolutely.
women need.
It is. It is. I agree 100%. I agree 100%. All right. So, painful topics, painful truths, hard pills to swallow aside, we got some things we need to discuss tonight. First thing I want to talk about, give me 1 second here while I bring it up for us. First thing I'm going to talk about is you. Thank you for being here. Folks
Oh,
that are
you're
in
very
this
welcome.
chat, go check out Mountain Chad. He's got a lot of great topics: dating and relationships, interviews he's been on, appearances, reactions to the internet.
Focus on that Sterling interview. All this other stuff is garbage. The
All
Sterling
the other
interview.
stuff is garbage. Go check out Mountain Chad, you guys. I also stole something from him from last year. As you can see here at the
Oh,
very
yeah.
bottom of the screen, men's mental health awareness from last year. Sit with me in silence for 30 minutes. If you go to my channel, I did the same exact thing. We're here for you guys. All right. So, one thing that has made a mark on my soul this year is this statistic right here: mass shootings. We're at 322. I looked into that, and that has to do with any more than one person, or actually any more than three people involved in some way, injured or deleted in an incident. And what I'm seeing is that those are all crimes committed by men.
Mhm.
We have to, gentlemen, we have to fix this for ourselves. We have to fix this. We're going to go into a react here from Borefic. This channel is for the guys. It's the best way. It's a good channel, and he's got a lot of great information. It's not the best way. It is a way to embrace a little bit more about manhood and perspective. Feel free to stop by his page. What we're going to look at here is one of the biggest topics that we're currently facing, and it is loneliness. The male loneliness epidemic has been talked about and talked about and talked about to no end if you are in the circles. Or if you're a guy looking for something new and all of a sudden you see, oh, wow, there's a lot of guys that are suffering or experiencing things similar to myself. In the case
Look
of
at
this,
all those open tabs.
look at all those open tabs. His tabs are ridiculous. His computer's going to overload and
Yeah,
explode.
his computer's about to burst into flames.
The man is crazy. But I want to kind of focus on what he's going to talk about here, what these two gentlemen are going to talk about here on Rich Roll that he's reacting to. So it's React to React. And I want to kind of tie this into a new frontier, gentlemen. Loneliness shouldn't be a thing. We are men. Being alone should be solace, and where we gain that introspection that leads to stoicism. It should be strength. We should find strength in it. But unfortunately, because of the way that modern society has kind of twisted things, it's changing for us, and men are short to find a path forward. So let's kind of examine this. Let's go along the way. If we see we're taking up too much time, we'll speed it up. But I noticed earlier when I was testing speeding this one up, the way the gentleman's cadence, it just almost makes it, you almost can't hear him because he's talking so fast. So 18 minutes. Let's get through this, and we'll pause as we go along.
Welcome back, tribe. Let's get into it.
I think because men are evaluated based on their economic vitality and having their act together, that they're just very loath to reach out for help. I think the blessing of the addiction community, or AI, I don't know what you call it, the recovery community, is they just put that shit aside. My sense of that community is first signal you're struggling, you reach out to other people. First signal. And that's a gift. I would bet a disproportionate number of men never develop that skill.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I'm going to stop it right here. I just want to say one quick thing. It is not unmanly to ask for help. It is not a dig against who you are as a man to ask for help. I've got counselors on deck. I've got friends on deck. I've got friends who know a little bit more than me on deck and can help balance my irrational mind from time to time. People who can help me along the way. It's been a long time since I've ever felt that destitute feeling that can lead to a very, 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 very dark place. I have experienced that. Tonight's vulnerable night, by the way, guys. We're bearing all and telling all because this is important that we talk about these things. But coming out of that, the next major thing is finding a frontier, and I can't hit on that enough. But escaping that thought process and finding the next step in life is a major, major piece.
Women are much better at it than men. They lean on their social networks. I mean, we're dealing with a situation right now
Use your
where
networks,
men
guys.
are now 77% of
Use your
suicides,
networks.
and it's going up. We're going to have 4-to-1 male to female suicides.
How much of that do you think is
And there are misnomers about suicide rates. Please understand that women practice, men commit. Please
Yes.
understand. It is a
Women
4-to-1 ratio.
women attempt as a cry for help.
Women
men
cry for help and the attention.
Take
Men just
very
do it.
permanent means.
Last year, I lost 3 men.
Holy shit.
Self-deletion, my friends. 3 men, one of which was a relative. Do with that what you will.
Healthy, you know Healthy Gamer GG?
Yeah,
The psychologist?
yeah.
Great guy.
The Asian guy.
Indian.
Indian. Yeah, Asian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Over there.
Yeah, close enough. Biggest continent on Earth. Good enough.
Big place over there. Yeah. Go to Russia.
He had a video a little while ago about male depression. The video itself was actually quite depressing. He was talking about how the majority of male self-deletions have no history of mental illness.
Right.
And he said that in his practice, when he's studied this and when he's worked with extremely depressed men, clinically depressed, what he found was that these men were not actually depressed. They were sincerely in situations where there was no solution. And so they, of course, erroneously interpreted self-deletion as the solution.
The solution.
And so the gist of that video was like, we know things are bad for men, but they might be a lot worse than we think they are. Because it would be one thing if these men had mental illness, but when the majority of the men who are self-deleting don't have any mental illness, they're sincerely just in a place where there's no path forward. That's crazy.
You almost make me want to react to that one in a future episode, but wow, that's deep.
You should.
That's deep. All right, let's continue. Wow.
is tied to this loneliness epidemic that we're seeing?
I think loneliness. So I'm going to flex now. Talking to the Department of Homeland Security about AI, and they're like, okay, what are the threats of AI? Is it going sentient? Is it AI tested misinformation? Is it self-repairing super weapons? I'm like, okay, I think in the short run, misinformation, AI tested misinformation is a threat. If I were Putin, I'd be flooding the zone with misinformation, making Biden seem a little bit older. I think that's the short-term threat. The long-term threat is tapping into men's loneliness. 1 out of 7 men don't have a single friend. 1 out of 4 men can't name a friend. The number of men who see their friends every day in high school has been cut in half. So they don't see their friends. They don't have romantic relationships, which serve as great guardrails. The only reason I stopped smoking pot every day was my girlfriend said, if you don't get your shit together, I'm going to stop having sex with you. Right? That's a tremendous motivator for a young man. If I hadn't had the prospects of a romantic relationship, if I didn't have the guardrails of going into the office every day, which a lot of men don't.
Women are huge motivators for men since the beginning of time. Almost everything a man does is instinctually to get women, to get more women, to get higher quality women. The way we compete with one, it's built into us from biology. Every guy does this, no matter how you want to say today, because I know it's so popular. You go my own way. I don't care about, I don't do nothing for women. Yeah, bro, everything you've done up until that point where you've said that shit out loud was for women subconsciously. You just went your own way because you gave up on the game because you've been out competed. Also, the standards are a bit delusional and out of touch, but you can't meet the extremes that's demanded of you today by the average woman. So you stepped out of the game instead of playing. I understand, but you are still very motivated. And if I were to dangle and magically put a woman in front of you that's going to love you for you and wants to have your babies on, you would get your shit together. You would be motivated to do more. You would elevate yourself as a man because it happens naturally to men.
Some men, because there's plenty of men that I've seen, family and otherwise, get beautiful women, blah, 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 get them pregnant, and they're nothing but couch sexuals. What are they, hobosexuals? And yeah, so in most cases, Bo, but in more cases, dudes don't give a fuck. A lot of guys just don't care.
I've been working on this theory. You know hoe math, right?
Yeah, I love home math. I'm going to do black home math soon.
He inspired me to create a diagram. I think I'll make a video about it soon. But I'm convinced that about 60% of men are not involved in the dating market at all.
Yeah.
At any given time. About half of them, 30% of men, are incels. And my definition of that is a man who sincerely has nothing to offer the opposite sex.
Oof.
He doesn't have a single redeeming quality. Nothing. The other half of that 60%, 30%, they have redeeming qualities, but they are deep under the surface. They are the type of qualities that you wouldn't learn about unless you were circumstantially around this man for a long period of time, like in high school or college. And
concentrated social interaction.
And then when these guys leave these social circles where they just happen to be around women, the chances of them ever being with a woman again drop to almost zero, because they need to be around a woman for like 10 hours a week for 6 weeks before she starts seeing any value in him.
Before she realizes under the layers of who he is. Now, does that go into guys not taking care of themselves and not losing weight? Does that go into guys not shaving right?
Yeah,
and the face shape and the
all
image,
sorts of
and
things.
how
Yeah.
you approach and how you talk and how you behave with the interaction? And
it's a cocktail of countless variables.
Okay, so it does tilt back to those variables of self-maximization and building yourself.
Then we have the top 40%.
Did you write it all down?
I'm gonna see if I have MS Paint. I do. All right. I might actually share my screen and try to show this on Paint.
Do it. You gonna do some home math for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna attempt some home math here. I'm gonna present.
I'll let you present. Go for it. Steal it.
There we go. Allow. Is that up? Okay, perfect. All right, perfect.
Let's do some Mountain Chad math.
Yeah, let's do some shit here. I don't remember how to use this program.
Hit your pencil. Hit the pencil.
The pencil?
Yeah, there you go.
All right. We got a shitty, ugly pyramid here.
Yeah.
All right. So the bottom of the pyramid, this is incel. Nothing to offer. All right. Then we got another 30% here. These guys are, I'm just going to do CIR. These are circumstantial, right?
Okay.
Let's call this 30%. And this is 30%.
Okay.
All right. Now, let's go straight to the top. This is 5%.
Those are the $1 million 666 guys.
Nope, they're not.
Oh, those are the 1%.
No. Not even them. Not even them.
Really?
So this is a hierarchy that you've never heard before. I'm breaking some brand new shit.
Okay. This is
I'm breaking some brand new shit here that the internet's never heard of before. within this, so from here up is the top 40% who are actually in the dating market. However, this is simply the line where desire begins. Here, let me make this bigger for me, for myself here. Oh God, that didn't make it bigger. Okay, desire. Yeah, you can just imagine that I spelt it correctly.
Yeah. That's the line of desire.
So this is not a black and white thing. This is not like a light switch turning on. This is a gradient. And at the top of this gradient, you might have guys who are super rich, or guys who are 6'5", or maybe a dude's famous, or maybe he drives a Lambo, or maybe he dresses really well, like he wears a suit, or maybe he
Culture Invasion podcast. No, I'm joking.
or maybe he tells jokes. He's real funny.
Right.
So you could put individual human beings on this list. You could say fucking Andrew Tate, right? You could say Joe Rogan, and you could start listing out their attributes. I think that's less useful. It's more useful to cut away the individual components. Joe Rogan is a funny rich man. Andrew Tate is a tall rich man, yada, yada. It's more important to look at the individual characteristics.
And that's why individuals that require that more time to get to know them are the ones that end up being self-ostracizing.
Oh, yeah. These guys down here are fucked. But those are not the guys we're talking about now. So this top 40% are actually involved in the dating market. And there's a gradient of success, and there's a gradient of female sexual desire. However, when we're talking about desire, what are we really talking about? We're talking about fantasy. Okay? And just like male fantasies, we are never fantasizing about a regular person. You have never once in your life wasted one of your fantasies on some totally average girl. What does this mean? This means that this top 5% is reserved for an idea.
Oh, wow.
This top 5% is not a physical man that exists somewhere. This top 5% is an idea of a man. This top 5% is, at any given time, the man that she is currently fantasizing about. So let me make the greatest example I can make here.
It's the Disney princess, man. It's a Disney prince.
Why is my eraser so hilariously tiny?
You have to size it on the right.
Thank you. It's not any bigger.
Well, it's not any bigger. Where's the brush for the stupid eraser? I don't know. Make a new one. File new.
All right, fuck it. All right, down here I'm gonna write things. Okay, so here's a perfect example.
New color.
I'm gonna list a man, and then I'm gonna list an idea. Okay. Shit, I have to Google something real quick.
Go for it. We got nothing but time.
Okay, here we go. The man. Jason Momoa.
Okay. You could have said Aquaman.
The idea is Aquaman.
So all the women are swooning for Aquaman when they don't know anything about the layers of Jason.
Jason Momoa farts and his feet smell bad, and maybe he picks his nose, and maybe he snores, and maybe he's not that considerate when he's eating breakfast, and maybe he has 1,000 other negative qualities that a real human man has. But the idea of Aquaman doesn't have any of those negative qualities. So what does this mean? When a woman is talking about how much she loves Jason Momoa, what she is actually fantasizing about is Aquaman. And when she goes out into the world and she makes sexual selective decisions, she's
Right.
making decisions based on the idea, not the actual man.
And does that explain why, if you don't have the qualifiers in the top 40%, you're invisible?
Not only are you invisible, but I would actually say that these men are the only men on the planet who actually experience sincere organic attraction. Everything below this point trends toward coercion. Because all
Settlement.
attraction,
Settling.
all attraction below this point is by proxy. She doesn't actually want to fuck you. You drive a Lamborghini and then she changes her mind. She doesn't actually want to fuck you. She finds out you're rich or famous and then she changes her mind. She doesn't actually want to fuck you, but you're 6'5" and that's kind of interesting to her. All of this is attraction by proxy. It's not genuine.
And
When
I
she
saw a lot of
decides, when she meets some guy who looks like Aquaman in the grocery store, she already decided to sleep with him before she ever met him. Do you see where I'm going?
I do.
That's real. That's real. That's real desire. That's real attraction. And this is the problem with the manosphere is almost every man exists here. All right? This is Fresh and Fit. This is all of them. This is almost every man.
Mhm.
There's a tiny group of men that exist up here who sincerely inhabit the fantasies of women. And everything below that trends toward coercion.
That's crazy. So this would be so I see, like, Together just brought up a question. Is he referring to all women or some women? I think there are oops. There we go. Is he referring to all women or some women? So go ahead. I'll let you.
I'm referring to all women in the sense that women, just like men, have fantasies, and the fantasies do not include the non-sexy parts of the opposite sex.
The
When
non-sexual
I
part of the
fantasize
human
about
experience.
when I fantasize about women, I'm not thinking about how she eats toast in the morning. I'm not thinking about what her feet smell like. I'm not thinking about whether or not she farts in her sleep.
She washes with a wash rag.
Oh my God, that's gross.
I dated one that didn't.
And she wants to use the same washcloth.
Right. She wants to use your toothbrush.
You know,
We're
I'm not thinking
fantasizing
about how bad her breath smells in the morning. We're
not fantasizing about any of that.
Yeah, we're all relying on fantasies that are intrinsically not referencing real humans.
I don't find myself fantasizing about another man. I am married.
Well, I bet you when you have a dream about your husband, you conveniently leave out the parts that are not sexy. Right? Right? I bet you your husband has some things that are not sexy, and you very conveniently forget those parts when you're having a fantasy about him.
He is very sexy.
I'm sure. Sure, he's a stud.
That's awesome.
A stallion. Anyway, that's my theory.
Letting you on the scene.
But is that a modern thing or something that's always been around? I guess you could say. You know, is that more of a creation of what's because I don't think it's more of a Western thing, or you think that also applies on people in like I guess every culture has their own folklore, I guess you could say, on there, but it sounds more like something of a modern problem. That's my question.
Yeah,
More of a
I
modern
would
problem.
say that
Because
I
we're
would say
bombarded by
modernity
everything, right?
has exacerbated it.
That part, the being bombarded,
Yeah.
because I'm thinking like the whole Disney
Yeah, because
fantasy
everything here
and the whole
they
Harlequin
believe,
novel
yeah,
fantasy and these fantasies
yeah, which is
we've
weird.
built up in our
Like they
Yes.
have
society.
some like they're like, oh, I want what Harley Quinn and the Joker has. I'm like, Harley Quinn was
Yeah.
raped and mentally tortured. You
Well, you
want
have
to
the
be
you have like the
raped and
Falco
mentally
novels
tortured
too.
and have Stockholm syndrome. You want Stockholm syndrome. I mean, that's technically what there's actual site, rapists that do that still. Is that what you want? Like what are you talking about? Like
Right.
it's
Like but that fantasy, yeah, and then that's fantasy gone awry. That's
but
that.
like you
Well, I
said,
would
they
say
leave out the part they
modernity
leave out
has
the
made it
parts,
worse.
but they leave out the
I would
parts that are
say,
not sexy. Like when she was
yeah, I
going
would
through
say
getting
modernity has
raped,
made it
getting
worse,
tortured.
but it makes sense that even back in time, we're not wasting our time fantasizing about the non-sexy parts of people. I have several female near me and they say, speak for yourself, not true. We can't join it because it's a company computer. Hey, fair enough. If you're fantasizing about like things that you think are disgusting, I don't see the logic in that. I don't think that makes sense.
But does that change on age as well, though, as we mature? Do some people do? Because to be
No.
honest, me at this point, I'm a little. Like I say, I'm older. To be honest, I just like it'll just be nice to come into. I mean, maybe because I'm old and I have kids on it. Like just come into a house that's clean with a, warm meal. That's heaven for me. You know what I mean? Warm meal, somebody who's not gonna berate me. That's I'd be heaven. Like it's do I care about all this nonsense that people fight about with like I guess the maid outfit, super sexy maid outfit. I don't want any of that crap. Like,
No,
dude,
no.
just
You
I don't
see,
care. Just look.
No, you're misunderstanding the point. So the point is that
It's more on the
in real
biological
life,
level than
in
on that.
real life, we can only be
Mhm.
with real people. Okay?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
in the real world, we all settle for real human beings. However, when we are pursuing partners, and I would say that this is especially true for women, they idealize and they have an idea of a man. And that idea of the man is more important than the real man.
That's true. Okay. Yes. Because even with when my ex she broke up on it, that's one of the things she said, and she's that I wasn't what she thought I was going to be.
When I broke
So
up with
even
the
in her
ex,
mind,
that
she
was
already
what it
had a
was.
Yeah.
a predetermined of how it was gonna end, and she saw it was just
She
Yeah.
had an
basic.
idealized
I
version
am.
of you
I'm
in
the
her
most
head.
basic. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I didn't
And
fulfill that because
and
I'm
I'm
just
very
me, and I told her
familiar
I'm
with
like,
this.
I'm not mad at you.
Yeah. Yeah, of course not. I'm
Go
very
ahead.
familiar with this because of the kink community. Because the kink community is extremely honest about their idealization of each other. When women are looking for some dom sub experience with me, there's a million factors about who I am as a person that they intentionally ignore because those factors would compete with the fantasy of a Viking who ties them up and carries them off. Right? So
Yeah.
if there's a million qualities that make Brian, they have to intentionally ignore 999,000 of those qualities so that they can indulge in their fantasy. That's what I mean about Jason Momoa and Aquaman. Women who have decided that they want to sleep with Aquaman, if they actually meet Jason Momoa, they have to ignore 99% of what makes Jason Momoa in order to sleep with Aquaman. Otherwise, Jason Momoa is going to ruin the fantasy.
Yeah, because he just find out maybe he's a little goofy. He's just like a regular guy who works out.
Yeah,
like he's just
yeah.
a
Yeah,
maybe
he
he's just
tells
like a
dumb
regular guy.
jokes.
Likes to
Yeah.
play video. Yeah,
He can't stop farting.
he's just one of the
He's
guys,
clumsy.
Yeah.
He's clumsy,
Yeah, he trips.
He trips a
Aquaman
lot.
doesn't trip.
Yeah.
Big old feet. He doesn't clip his toenails, and they're shredding her legs in the bed.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's got jagged
but that
toenails.
chasing that perfect fantasy, I guess, person on it, I guess that could spiral, like that will create even more problems on top of the problems that we're experiencing right now, that constantly chasing for that. It's not even a perfect man, it's a perfect thing, because a thing,
It's an
Aquaman's
abstract
not real, but they're
concept.
still a concept. Yeah, so they're looking for a concept instead of looking for an actual partner, an actual person.
And what you said earlier, I would agree with, in the sense that they had more, their concept of a man was more in line with what men really are back in the day. They were still
I think it's
looking
because
for an
they're-
idea, but it was
Right.
more realistic.
Right.
Yeah,
But-
I
and
mean,
it also
you
had-
could
it
look
also
for,
had
because you could look for
Mario.
a leader. You could look for somebody who's a leader, or somebody who's what they see, because that's what they see around them. So okay, who's more of a leader? Who's more of a a warrior? Because in those times on it, more fit, things that you could theoretically be. You could lead. You could get in shape. You could be better at business or trade. Those
Mhm.
things are things that you could accomplish, but you
In
cannot
the
be
past,
Aquaman.
too.
You cannot speak to fish.
Yeah, and then in the past too, you also had the structures and guardrails of society that were a lot more stringent, even though overall we had more freedom. But you still had families that had expectations, and sons and daughters that were raised in the home, daughters trained to be the homemakers, homesteaders, gentlemen to be the providers. So those classic dynamics are all torn down now too.
But if you have like I said, a father figure, a strong father figure, somebody that you love, and that's what I said, girls fall in love with their dads first on it. You see that, well, that becomes your Aquaman. Your father becomes your Aquaman. So
Well,
you're
yes,
almost
it does set
so
that.
you're gonna looking for your version of what Aquaman looks like is what you saw in your father. So you're
Yeah,
gonna
probably to a large degree. That makes
Yeah, to a
sense.
large degree. So you're going to be looking for, you're not going to care about whether or not he can talk to animals. You're going to look at, that person that was there, that, strong figure. And for me, that's what I try to do, in the time that I have, with my daughters.
Mhm.
I,
Make that
in
impression.
essence, I want to be their Aquaman,
Mhm.
the one that they come to me for anything. Advice, and that's why I have to, like, I read more, and because my daughter will bring up scientific. Hey, I saw this on a scientific journal. I'm like, where do you see that? It was up on my Twitter. I read the whole thing, research it. She said, I want your opinion. Research it, looking it on, and I find the abstracts, and I'm like, first of all, and she thinks I'm like a genius. I'm like, no, I'm just
No, but that's that coverage,
because
right? And that's,
I just it's like school. I'm like, let me do some research real quick.
but this is the coverage that, as a father, you are to provide, right? So we're talking
Mhm.
about frontiers here, and we're talking about men being men in families and leadership. That's that coverage that you are to provide, wife, if she was in the picture, and the daughters in the family, because the handoff is all that you have embraced, and everything that you have imbued within her, for her to now be handed off to the man that she chooses. So there's coverage there. There's the coverage of her knowledge, the coverage of her protection, the coverage of her her the food and roof over her head, all the material things that keep her safe. Um, that's exactly what men should be doing. That's exactly the role that we should be fulfilling.
And my mind just went blank.
Okay, Aquaman.
Oh, wait, no, I got it. You were talking earlier. Remember, we talked about knowing when to take a number 2 position?
Yes.
Part of being a competent and effective parent today is knowing that you don't have the fucking answers. Google has the answers. in terms of just pure knowledge, we all have to consciously take a backseat to Google. I don't know about you guys, but like, did you ever get the feeling that your parents like felt maybe, what's the word? Like, some parents don't want to admit that they don't have the answer.
Yeah.
And they
think
might
there's-
even get their
there's a lot of
feelings hurt if they find out that you're going to Google instead of going to them.
I think there's a lot of that going on today. Absolutely. And I think that I still encounter blowback from choices my parents had made where they didn't have the answer, today. I think I see that. Definitely.
Well, my parents always. I mean, I guess maybe the culture would be different. No, I mean, my parents were okay saying I don't have all the answers, but they were also okay saying, hey, we could figure it out together. Let's, or let me see. First it'd be like, from what I know, as far as I know, this and this and that on there. If there's more, I'm sure there is more to it. So for them, it was always like, okay, we finding where that information will be, that answer will be, and then it's like I could, help get the answer, so to speak.
Yeah, I
They
think
didn't have any problem saying I don't know, and it wasn't.
more of a-
They didn't. Yeah,
and it's probably a Western thing. It's probably definitely a Western thing. I think because there's a lot of do as you're told. There's a lot of all these excuses or excuse me, power plays that parents use to maneuver. And when you're an intelligent child, you see that they're actually dumb as shit.
Well, like, I was one of those kids with so many questions that I was a pain in the ass. And so I think at a pretty young age, my parents were like, go fucking figure it out on your own. And that's what it's been ever since.
I think it's because I think me and my mother's brain works pretty similar, very inquisitive, and my mother's very smart. I don't tell my dad this, but my mother is way smarter than my dad. First of all, in so many ways, in many ways, when it comes to learning, adapting. Like, my mom's extremely smart, but she always knew to never allow that to be shown. And I think that was that's the smartest thing she ever did. She never ever allowed herself to look like she's smarter than my dad. But she was.
That's very considerate.
Yeah. Because she always respected that. But I would go into her even now when we discuss, and when it comes to like theology, things like that. We discuss, we talk, and we have this long discussion about things on there, knowing that when an early age I knew me and my father can never go toe to toe. I was easier for me to absorb information and dissect it on there. So I know not, and I guess learning from my mom, I don't do that to my dad. It's my father. He's our patriarch. He's honest. So I don't. So it's kind of skills that I use, and in a sense, and I still do that with my kids. I never want them to feel like they're dumb. You know what I mean on it? So those are like little things on it, and I go, okay, and then I should try to inquire. Yeah, both my parents, they've been together for 50, over 50 years. I think they're going on 60 now. 60 years together.
That's
Wow.
Yeah, that's a different dynamic. That's cultural dynamic. So there's a lot at play there as well. Yeah, especially the longevity. Let's not spiral too far. Let's finish this first react. We get to this one. So, Rican, welcome, man. Welcome.
Hey, what's up?
I got a
plug.
It's been a long time, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I was actually doing some things for the channel. And I got a video hit 15,000 views. Like,
yes.
Ladies
and gentlemen in the audience, go check out Rican Muslim. He is a new revert to the Muslim religion, Muslim faith, Islam, and he has some very insightful perspectives. Longtime friend, homie.
Yeah.
Let's continue, guys.
And this is what happens when you get a woman in a family. You work harder, you want to do more, you want to sacrifice more, you get motivated and disciplined and derive a deep sense of pride and accomplishment from seeing your family well clothed, well fed, everybody happy, smiling, with a good roof over their heads. It's just natural, bro. There's nothing wrong about it. It's just the dating dynamics have been so twisted today that doesn't even seem like a reality for most people anymore. And we have a toxic adversarial attitude in the West in regards to dating between the genders. You know, everybody's looking to extract something out of everybody else. And I do think we're headed for a population implosion to the likes we've never seen before once AI chatbots, AI girlfriends really become mainstream. You know, the next few iterations of ChatGPT, I don't know how many years it takes for them to come through a new iteration. Once we're on number 5, 6, 7, whatever, and it's multitudes, magnitudes better than it was previously. Like imagine a ChatGPT that could hold a human level conversation like an adult live while
You mean like
speaking. No need to
4.0?
type. Forget typing. You just speak into your phone and your
Yeah,
chatbot
GPT
talks back. You
4.0.
literally have an entire conversation the entire day with an AI girlfriend that you can customize a soft-spoken voice, and she can literally tell you anything you need to know, answer any question you have. How many stars are there in the galaxy? Boom, answer right away in a cute way. Hey, do you know what happened on this episode at minute 37? Boom, retrieves that information right away. Hey, I need to know how to solve this problem. Boom, right away. Never complains, never yells, never argues.
And that goes back to that dynamic of if I have a housekeeper, a housekeeper, a chef, and a hoe, what do I have a need for a wife, girlfriend, or other woman? Now you got AI that fills the gap. You got something warm to put your rod, you got someone cooking you a meal, and your house is clean.
I don't think that the institution of marriage is going to survive, but I think the companionship of a human female will still continue for some time.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, I myself am looking for a companion as human,
I think it will still survive outside of the West.
but we're going to see.
I think it'll survive.
We're going to
Yeah,
see
but everywhere outside of the West doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're right. It's not like the West is about to completely implode and just disappear.
Hey, the rest of the world has
They stop having
imploded
babies.
multiple times, and it doesn't affect anything.
They
The
completely
West is-
have. I mean,
the West is the only place that matters.
You're right. I apologize.
Always is appreciative. There's little dials. We're going to be able to twist and turn in the program to make her more bubbly, more aggressive, happier sounding, a little dry humor here. You know, you're going to be able to make your AI girlfriend whatever you want, dude. No human can compete with a companion on that level with access to that kind of information, especially when you're one of the 1 in 4 men that is crippled by loneliness. You don't even have a friend that you can name. That's crazy. For the guys that are successful sexually and will still get girlfriends and have absolutely no problem in the realm of hooking up and having real human intimacy, congratulations, you're going to avoid this entire issue. But for the men that are in the crippling loneliness epidemic, whose numbers are rapidly exploding in society, a conversation that's not being had in the mainstream, just a few articles here and there, and these gentlemen talking about it here and there. And once that becomes the majority, which we're trending in that direction faster and faster and faster. And then women are not going to escape from this, because women are going to be battling for a smaller and smaller and smaller pool of men, and women will be sharing more and more and more men, or I should say, whatever little men are left that they deem attractive enough. And the other guys, dude, that don't want to put in the work, that have to work extra hard to get the same thing the bad boy gets for free, are just going to opt for an AI girlfriend. The more fortunate among us are just going to grab a passport, go overseas and call it a day. That's it, dude. I'm just going to go. My last hurrah is getting a passport. This is the Hail Mary. I'm going to go overseas to a more traditional culture, a more traditional way of thinking, where women still want men and start families and want to be led by men and would like a husband and raising kids at home. And I'll go there. And if I can't make it there, most of those men will probably turn to the AI stuff. For the rest of the men that are in dead-end jobs, waking up every single day, going to your shitty place of work where you're earning pennies on the dollar, you have nothing to look forward to in your future. You just clock in, do your shift, clock out, come home, play video games with the boys. That's the only form of social contact you have. Then when you get off the game, you go rub one out, because why not? You're feeling the urge as a man. Obviously, don't have any women around. Get back on, game a little more.
Very
Bam,
nice.
time to go to work. Rinse and repeat, and that's your life, bro. You're a hermit. Nobody knows anything about you. Your phone doesn't ring unless it's from work. Notifications don't go off unless it's an email. Nobody knows anything about you. All your friends have moved on with their lives, either to different states for college, or some have gotten a girlfriend, fall off the face of the earth. You create a surface level friend group. You call your online buddies. And that's how you go through life. And one day you're going to purchase this new AI girlfriend that's going to be able to answer the call and be your companion and rid you of the crippling boredom and loneliness of not having anybody to talk to. And it'll be something like at a Blade Runner 2049. I mean, really, that's before holograms. Think about it. We're just talking pure speakers. Apple just came out with the Apple Glass. I mean, you put that on, it's game over. Now you're designing your digital girlfriend. You're dressing her how you want. You know, she's learning everything you prefer in your AI girlfriend because the machine learning is there with it, coupled with the AI, all that stuff. Man, the future is looking grim. I'm telling you, population implosion is coming. I mean, they think the birth rates are steadily declining now. I think we're headed for a cliff. If we're not going to have a national conversation on the issues with intimacy, relationships, people connecting to one another, valuing themselves, if we don't make it easier for women and men to settle in their respective gender roles, if we don't make it easier for people to have families, buy homes, start a marriage, this is all going to go south. You could kiss everything we've built goodbye. This entire system will fail. We will be replaced by whatever's next after us. We're essentially repeating the Roman Empire. How many years is that going to take? I have no idea. I do know society won't be that stable as more and more people die off, as less and less babies are being born, more and more people are reaching old age. Those social programs won't last much longer. There's nobody paying into the pyramid scheme, and the violence will begin. I mean, somebody smart at the top has to see this stuff coming. I mean, it will make sense why they're censoring us more and more, why they're getting more authoritative day by day, why they're trying to power grab, pass more legislation that gives them more power, more.
And we're going to talk a little bit about the power grab here and programs that people are putting in place. But yeah, I mean, look, I got my global entry card. Fuck the dumb shit.
Nice. He's absolutely right. Population collapse is coming. I think the statistic for South Korea, which is the worst in the world right now, for every 100 South Koreans there are right now,
I thought it was Japan.
No, South Korea is worse than Japan.
Yeah.
Really? Last I heard it was like Japan.
Yeah.
Japan was doing terrible.
For every 100 South Koreans, there'll be 4 grandchildren.
Right. Yeah, South Korea is definitely in the fray right now. Japan
96%.
Japan is approaching it and is warning everybody about it and has all the statistics of how their population will collapse. And Japan has been a little more public about programs that they're kind of creating to spur things, especially bringing foreigners in to buy land. That's just, you can just buy land.
Bring a whole bunch of Muslim Hispanic people, population will grow 100x. Guaranteed. Just bring him in. I'm telling you, a whole bunch of Hispanics on there with 4 whites on there. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, we'll get you pregnant. We'll get you pregnant.
Exclusively redheads.
Yeah.
Let's bring a whole generation of redheaded Japanese kids into the world.
Let's not forget, too, that nations aren't like America. They just don't. Other nations that aren't liberal nations aren't like America as far as who they allow in. So there
I'm a big supporter of xenophobia. I think Japan shouldn't let anybody in.
There's you've seen the newest analysis from the UK. You have the liberal side screaming and hollering and crying about the fact that there's violence and things, and that certain individuals who they're letting in the country don't understand the values of the country because they don't have programs to bring them in properly.
What a surprise!
What a surprise! But
these countries have already begun
their country
mass deportation programs.
Right. Yeah. God forbid you prepare them properly and you put them through proper programs like my father went through, like I participate in down at this courthouse for Citizenship Day, where I watch people being sworn in that have gone through class, that have a vested interest in some capacity in being an American.
And it's so ironic that
just let them in. Fucking open the borders. Let them in.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's fucking disgusting.
I think Europe is going to descend into fascism in the next 10 or 15 or 20 years.
Oh, they're not fascists already? I'm pretty sure they are.
Oh, I mean 1930s fascism, not today. I'm talking about
It's not real fascism.
I'm talking about immigration is about to be handled in a very absolute way.
Salute to Zero and Ricky. Thanks for joining, guys. We're doing men's
You know,
talk tonight.
That's the irony of mass deportations is people point their fingers and they want to talk about how unreasonable it is. And it's like, well, if you're a student of history, you realize mass deportations are pretty fucking reasonable compared to what comes after that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Europe right now and the United States basically have 1930s Germany conditions, Weimar Republic. And when you have conditions like this, it catalyzes a response from the right, from the liberal right, which is going to be there's going to be no moderation. It's going to be 0 to 100. That's how it has been every time throughout history and every country around the world. The right does not understand moderation. There will be no half measure.
Mm-mm.
And that's why all students of history have been warning the world of this for the last 50 years. I say we because I'm a student of history. We've been so against the left because we don't want to see the left catalyze a new right.
Damn. Yeah.
That's well said, actually. That's very well
Well said. Yeah. I get that. And it's the realization of what's to come. It's looking ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of like what happened with Hitler.
Your rights from freedom.
What if all Hist has a great video on are we in the Weimar Republic? Have you seen that?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that one.
Where he talks about the degeneracy of the Weimar Republic, and he talks about how, from the perspective of the average German person, their country reached a level of degeneracy where you could order child prostitutes as easily as you can order a pizza.
No.
What?
Jesus.
The Weimar Republic, they had the first trans people, they had the first gender change surgeries. All of that was created in the Weimar Republic. It got to a point where like there was such degeneration that when a figure like Hitler comes to power and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to end all this shit," all the people,
everybody wants to embrace that because of the degeneracy.
Exactly. And he couldn't exist without decades of degeneracy first.
Damn.
A speech to movement to having passports during certain worldwide situations happening. You know what I mean? Like you got to show your ID to walk out of your house, stuff like that, man. This is trial runs for something going on, something major. I mean, they have to. There are a bunch of smart people at the top, no matter how stupid the puppets in front of us seem that we elect. There's people that actually run the world, the people that fund all those campaigns, that pick their winners, that probably look at society and know where they're headed. Why else are these people building bunkers and mega mansions with all sorts of armed guards and all this shit happening? For what? Because you got money, or something's potentially going to happen one day and you're preparing for it? I don't know, man. We're getting deep end on the conspiracy theory, but I could tell you right now, the average man isn't doing good. The average man feels disillusioned. The average man feels disconnected, feels neglected, and they have no stake, no skin in the game for society today. And that number of men, although it could be considered small today and underrepresented in the pool of men as a whole, won't be for long. I've said it before. They think red pillars are cringe and like misogyny this, and they're spewing toxic masculinity. Wait until that darker shade becomes the mainstream. And that darker shade being this color right here. You can't even say it out loud what color this is. Once these guys become the mainstream, that's your ass. Just wait and see. I have a theory. That conversation will become the mainstream conversation one day, sooner than later, because the statistics are only going to get worse. The top percentile winner take all system we have is only going to get worse, more top heavy. And once you get a whole bunch of people at the bottom, especially men, that don't feel the system represents them, wait until you see the sparks fly on that one. We have plenty of historical examples to look back on. We know what it takes to destabilize society. Well, shit, well, society's already being destabilized right now. It's just tribalism and political extremism on each side. But that's
Absolutely.
a symptom of the sickness. That's a symptom of the disease underlying in society today, where both men and women are unhappy.
I'm just going to say, the upcoming political campaigns, I don't know shit about either one of these people's issues that have anything to do with where we are as a nation. But all I hear is a whole bunch of fucking insults and see a whole bunch of perpetuating potential violence in this country.
Bro, they tried to shoot him in the face during a rally. That was their plan, legitimately, on live TV. By the way, that's the only time CNN has ever aired a live Trump rally. In the last 10 years, the only time they've ever done it is when he was going to be shot in the face on live TV. Shot in the face on live television in front of thousands of people in rural Pennsylvania.
Now the fact that you bring up CNN has me thinking something different. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I didn't even think about the CNN correlation.
You know, what do you think the response would be? When you think about, again, What If Alt His talks about this, where he talks about how aggressive young men have a monopoly on violence.
Yeah.
Right? Who
Yeah.
has all of the aggressive young men in this political divide? Who has all the guns? Who has all the military? Who has all the police?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The powers that be are attempting to catalyze a conflict, which is going to be one of the most one-sided conflicts in human history.
Yeah. Look at the takedown. Look at the absolute breakdown of the security that surrounded that man that day that happened.
I refuse to believe it was incompetence. That's a
no.
level of incompetence. Like, you can't even make I can't even think of an analogy of an equal level of incompetence.
And the FBI director, they got fired. Total scapegoat.
I would have already quit. I would have quit right after that. That's what I'm saying. I would have just quit and left the country the second that happened.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Looks a bit suspicious.
They failed to talk about this before, and I don't even know if they brought it up or I didn't watch her trial or her, discussion with Congress. All I'm saying is they expressed before that they never had enough Secret Service agents. They said that years ago. They said years ago, because they didn't have enough, previous candidates, previous presidents' details would be reduced. No one talks about this shit. I don't know if it was budget, if it was the anti-FBI CIA thing that was going on before during his term, but those fuckers were hamstringed. So however it turned out, to be honest with you. No one talks about that shit either. But yeah, they tried to shoot the guy in the face.
During a rally, it's so brazen. It's if it was in a movie, it would literally be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Happier than ever. What is a woman? What is a man? What are gender norms? What is expected of you in a relationship? Everybody's ignoring their biological needs. We do want kids. We do want to be in a family with a loving partner. We want to leave a legacy behind. We want a lot of things that we can't have anymore. The economics don't support it. We're paying all these taxes for what? Can't buy a house, can hardly afford a car. Wages have stagnated. The rich hide behind their gated communities. When a company fails, they're too big to fail. We bail them out. When the little man fails, you're nothing. You're just kicked out on your ass on the street. Good luck, kid. Find your own way. Bank repossesses your shit. Corporate welfare. This isn't real capitalism that we're living under. Real capitalism would allow all these companies to fail. We're in a corporate socialist state. Anywho, I could rant on about that
have been
all
since
day.
1965.
Ahead until we turn this baby around. But let's see what they say.
I just think I would have smoked pot and watched Planet of the Apes all day long, right? That was a good life for me. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So many
Video
men
games and
have now
rubbing them out,
sequestered from people and guardrails to this mix of algorithms and screens that they're becoming very lonely. And I said, the scenario I see as the biggest threat to the homeland and defense is if I were an adversary or a bad actor, I would identify the 2 or 3 million very lonely men who serve in the armed services or at our ports or our critical infrastructure. And I would develop a very sophisticated network of AI girlfriends that start a relationship with them. and make them feel good. It can be 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Send them pictures, increasingly erotic. You're funny, like the movie Her, and get them more and more involved. And all you need, 0.01% of them would be 3,000 of them. And at some point, you flip it and say, you know what real leadership and real men do is they fight against the tyranny. And what is the tyranny? The tyranny is your own government. And when this box comes into the port, I don't want you to check it. Or you're on the aircraft carrier strike force off the coast of the Mediterranean.
Yeah, pause this. Load of horse shit. Load of horse shit. He is necessarily talking about the weakest men in society. These men will not fight back, no matter what. You could stamp on their nuts with a steel-toed boot. They won't fight back. These men are the lowest of the low in our... only a tiny fraction of people, men or women, are capable of fighting back against the system. When he's talking about intentionally aiming at the bottom, the most loser piece of shit men in society, the idea that these men are going to be inspired to suddenly be heroic is absurd.
But it's not a heroic statement.
And especially ex-military too. He's talking about targeting ex-military. We have our own, like, dude,
no, he's talking about he's talking about breaking down defenses of active individuals, like he said, border patrol.
He's talking about people, military, people that were at the bottom that have the expertise on. That's not gonna work. Like,
well, here's the thing. Look at most of the look at what was the statistic? Like look at like the sniper. Look at the sniper that the most recently did the thing against Trump, right? Who was that kid? He was a
CIA plant.
Well,
probably somebody that's been grooming for a long time.
MK Ultra, Ted Kaczynski.
MK Ultra, right? Yeah, I mean,
the same way they use the FBI agents that had like the two people, like there were like 40 people involved and only 2 were actually civilians. The rest were all FBI people. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait, go back to your point, Brian. If they're using something like MK Ultra and they're appealing, like you said, you only need the smallest percent. Because it was what? It was physical, psychological, sexual manipulation.
You know, you could have something there if it's like an MK Ultra within the vehicle of some AI, but
yeah, it's because it's nudging. It's all about nudging. It's all about dangling that carrot. It's all about putting the cereal that has the highest sugar content right there in front of your eyes at the fucking grocery store because everybody likes fucking Trix and fucking Captain Crunch, instead of the healthy shit that's up top that costs twice as much.
I can't help but feel like these people are lazy, though. All people are lazy.
That's what it is. That's human. Let me ask you this. Let me tell you this. A relative of mine lives in a situation where there is a constant influx of mosquitoes. As a 60-year-old individual, they have not purchased screens or invested in some kind of way to deter, and they just kind of live with it. Humans at their root are lazy.
True.
Humans at their root are lazy. So lowest common denominators has TikTok going fucking bonkers right now. All the lowest common denominator thought process people, all the trends we've seen, all these assholes doing these mobs and all this. It's very easy to manipulate these people. They're dumber than we think they are. We're giving too much credence. We're giving too much credence to humanity.
I definitely am too optimistic about the average person.
Yeah.
And the average person's a moron.
Average person's absolute dipshit and
half the population is dumber than that person.
The dead comedian. George Carlin. George Carlin. Yeah.
You flip it and say, some things. You know what real leadership and real men do is they fight against the tyranny. And what is the tyranny? The tyranny is your own government. And when this box comes into the port, I don't want you to check it. Or you're on the aircraft carrier strike force off the coast of the Mediterranean, turn off this switch. Don't turn it on, turn it off. I think the next big threat or soft tissue will be a group of radicalized young men who are susceptible to AI algorithms and are so lonely that they start to engage with AI relationships, specifically AI girlfriends, that will essentially be in a position to radicalize them and instruct them on behavior. I mean, I don't think
Terrifying.
we're going to have Skynet. It'll replace jobs, but every innovation in technology destroys jobs in the short run, and then over the long term, it creates more jobs, as will AI. But there's so many lonely young men who don't have any interaction with people, and they become very susceptible to anything or any platform or any algorithm giving them a sense of self-worth. I literally see that as the biggest defense secret. No one's going to take us on.
Yeah, belonging. You find an online community as a man that resonates with all your issues. You finally feel that you're being heard, and you find a group of people that feel the same things you do. Instinctually, that brotherhood in you, that needing to belong and prove yourself and be a part of something bigger than yourself kicks in. It's game over. You can get radicalized down some deep, dark holes and be a zealot for the cause really easy as a man, especially in that vulnerable position. We have no more mentors today. Aside from fathers being absent in homes, increasingly so because women are strong, independent, powerful babes that don't need no man. So what do? You get a roving, marauding gang of single men, lonely men, isolated men that are all going to come together and just share all the ways they feel neglected by society and what they should do to fix it.
Yeah.
Why do you think they target men's spaces so hard?
Kinetically, we spend $800 billion. No one can attack us. I think we're going to figure out Hamas. I think we're going to figure out over time Russia and Ukraine. I think the threat is within. I think this lonely young men in concert with AI is a huge threat.
Subtle, progressive, and pernicious
100%.
manipulation. Yeah.
Just
I mean, his scenario is interesting as well, but I think the mass majority of men are going to be purely apathetic to the cause, to whatever the nation's defense needs are. I mean, the military is already struggling to fill ranks. Nobody's going to want to die for a country that doesn't represent them. It's going to be impossible to defend the nation when there's nobody to defend it, period.
Yeah,
That's
no matter
why
how
we're
much money you put in it.
end up being more and more reliant on AI weapons, AI tools, AI protection, because the human component of it, the actual soldier, is going to start to disappear rapidly. The average man just simply doesn't feel like he has a reason to or any need to fight for a country that, again, doesn't views him as a predator, views him as toxic masculinity, views him as toxically masculine, views him as being broken in some way.
Well,
and he needs to be fixed.
Not
and
even that.
be educated in.
You still need, even if they didn't, like, you still, even if that wasn't the case, the how weak they are, it's not that you can just turn someone who just weak mentally, emotionally, and physically, and in very quickly you could improve some things, but you cannot radically change all of that for pretty much an influx of what's coming in. We still get the few weak links in within squad or something on there, but there's certain things that you can improve on, but then at the whole lifts up that one weak one.
Well, that's
the
ideal.
problem really is that they're all weak links. So if you make a chain that is full of weak links, and it's game over.
But at the same time, the government is lowering its standards for entry.
Yeah, I was saying everything that's coming in is just weak links.
The army is lowering.
It's all weak links.
It's all weak links.
Yeah,
it's all weak links. We have weakened our own sources because of liberalism, because females wanted to be in the army, and then things were too difficult for certain individuals to participate in the physical stuff, and so everybody's lowering these bars. We are creating a crippled society. We are creating weak individuals and allowing, if it's DEI, whatever it is, we're allowing weak people to participate that have no merit for those positions at all.
Well, I've certainly noticed to myself that I'm far less patriotic than I used to be. And it's funny.
That is also
my girlfriend actually just asked me a couple of weeks ago. She was like, she was asking me, she likes to pick my brain. I basically learn things about history, and then she wants me to teach her things about history. So she's getting it like three sources removed. So she was like, do you think we're going to go to war soon? And I was like, it looks like the powers that be, the deep state, want war with Iran. She's like, if America declared war on Iran, would you go? I was like, fuck no. And she's like, what if America was attacked? And On instinct, I was like, yeah, of course, I would fight. And she's like, really? If California was invaded, you'd go to California and fight. And then she made me realize, like, oh, fuck, I'm not that patriotic anymore. If
Well, there's also
California was
layers to
invaded,
that. You'd have to be
if
drafted. and blah, blah,
California,
blah.
if California was invaded by the Chinese, I'm not going. Fuck them. This country hates me. This country has been telling me that I'm the enemy my entire life. If Californians want their state back, they can fucking fight for it. I'll fight when Texas is invaded. And
that
you know
is
what else?
That is just the beginning. That's
And
just
you know,
the beginning. The loss of that pride in your nation.
you know what else? I think half of the men in my generation are mentally incapable of fighting a war, and the other half, when the recruiter comes with the draft papers,
Mhm.
they're going to shoot the fucker in their doorway.
Mhm.
I think I would rather end up in prison than to be shipped off to fucking Iran to die in some retarded war.
Mhm. Yep.
So the
You know,
notion that the federal government's going to be capable of fighting a serious war, I just don't see it.
No. What I see are proxy wars, which is where we're at now. Drones
Yeah.
and other countries getting invested with all kinds of arms and funds.
Trillions of dollars laundered right into the
Laundered money.
pockets.
100%.
whatever it is, dude. You can use whatever terminology that side uses, but it doesn't change the fact that men feel this way, and the left currently has absolutely no answer to why this is, and over again,
And then they're going to shove Kamala down our throats in 99 days.
they fail to resonate with this group of men.
Unelected.
Rapidly growing.
Fuck
Instead, they're isolating them even more, driving them underground, and making them more and more radicalized, because you attack these people that are just crying out for help, for attention, for love, for acknowledgement. You make enemies out of them and you demonize them, and then this is what you get. You get these underground communities that become even more extreme than you could ever imagine, and then society starts crumbling one little piece at a time. Men need their spaces back. Boys need their spaces back. Mentorship needs to come back. Shop classes need to come back.
Yes.
Men should be taught it's healthy to compete. Men should be taught how to.
Can't compete when everybody's getting a fucking participation award. I'm going to cut Bo short there.
Yeah.
But
I have to
folks
call
that
it
are
as
out
well.
there-
I'm 2 hours and 15 minutes in.
You dropping off?
Yeah.
All right, I got one more to go. I'm gonna respond, or excuse me, I'm gonna react to. But folks out there, check out Borific and Mountain Chad. Brother,
Peace,
I
everybody.
appreciate you being
Great.
here, man. Thank you so
Check
much.
out his
Dude.
new channel.
It's
most,
been too long.
Check out his new channel. Actually,
Well,
Where's
he
the new
wasn't going to
channel?
plug that tonight.
Yeah.
What?
I'm
What?
keeping the channels. I'm keeping the channels separate to some degree.
Yeah, so he's Mountain Chad tonight.
How dare he?
How dare he?
I'm already hooked on
Great
his
seeing you
videos.
guys.
It's great
Have
to
a
see you,
good
man.
night.
I greatly appreciate you, bro. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Hopefully again soon. Bye.
Take care.
Yeah, I came in. I know it's late. Yeah, I need to go get some rest. I'm gonna have my kids tomorrow, but yeah, I just wanted to say hi. I was probably
you
just coming in.
Not
Yeah, I
gonna
was
stay
gonna
for
come
the
in.
reactor?
Man, it's late already. It's almost midnight. I gotta get
Yeah,
some
that
rest.
ain't
I
nothing.
work tomorrow.
I do too.
But no,
That ain't
I wanted to come in. I want to make sure that supported you, trying to get stuff for the channel done. Send you
I
lots of
love
love.
it, brother. Thank you. Hell yeah.
Appreciate it for having me. And it's the only time will tell. But of course, I think the solution will always be Islam. It is brotherhood. It is faith. It is morality. It is a way of life. And a lot of people are, in fact, finding that in Islam, the brotherhood, especially men.
There were a lot of
not lonely.
followers of Islam in the chat tonight, in fact. So
Yeah, we got lots of brothers and sisters. Got lots of brothers who I talk to, who always, see how I'm doing. Hey, what do you need from me? Hey, how's the family? They see me to stop me. And
that is missing in so many parts of this nation in the modern day. That's a religious community. You have the religious community, you have your social community, you have your family community. These things are lacking. So what you're exactly what you're experiencing is what old world values should be bringing to the
Yep.
table.
So
Yeah.
all we could do, I mean, it's kind of, I'm still definitely hopeful. I don't believe in all doom and gloom on there, and I will always work to make the world a little bit better every day.
Ladies and
We
gentlemen,
should all
check
do
out
that.
Muslim.
If you find somebody who's lonely, on it, approach them. Just be nice. Just be nice. Tell everybody. Just be nice. Be nice to somebody. Talk to somebody you never haven't talked to before. Say hi to your neighbors. Get to know them. Who knows? You might be saving a life just by doing so. So that's my advice.
Awesome, man. I greatly appreciate you being here, brother. I love you too. Peace to
Love
you, man.
bro. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Take care, man. Take care. It's awesome to always have buddies stop by and visit. Those are some really, really good gentlemen. Thank you so much for stopping by, guys. All right. So to close out this episode tonight of Men's Mental Health Frontiers, right? We're going to look at how society can potentially be looking at us. I don't know if many of you are in manosphere-ish spaces or manosphere adjacent spaces. But recently, content creators have been under fire because a consultancy agency was employed to go around and investigate the talking points of some channels. MTR was one of the people on MTR as a content creator. He was one of the people on the docket and being analyzed by this consultancy group. Well, figuring out, using my own mental facilities here and coming up with, and actually working with DEI in the past, I realized that this wasn't a government organization. This was a government grant sponsored feminist organization studying these guys, these content creators. Segue into this next video I'm going to react to. Australia has actually created a task force in the government, a government run task force to study men. This, gentlemen, is a threat. This, gentlemen, is very real. All right. This could be our next step here in the nation if we as men don't fix our problems. We have the ability to do so. So let's get into this react. This is Rebel Capitalist. You can find Rebel Capitalist on YouTube. Again, a great content creator. He's got a lot of good knowledge. He shares a lot from a man's perspective. This is Men's Health episode. So, gentlemen, please feel free to discover something new. All right. Wisdom is gained through knowledge. You gain knowledge through seeking new things and filling your mind up with it. So go gain new knowledge, find a new frontier. All right, let's get into this.
Hello, fellow Rebel Capitalists. Hope you're well. So we've got a story that's absolutely shocking. And I wish I was using hyperbole, but as you will soon find out, I'm not. This is the government
Fair use.
of Australia actually setting up a ministry or task force, whatever it's called down there, to literally change men's behavior. Not making that up. And it's not just in Australia. I think right now, Australia, or since 2020, has really been a testing ground for the global elite and the World Economic Forum. I don't think that's really going out on a limb. I think most of you would agree. So if this is being, let's say, tested in the petri dish of authoritarianism that is Australia, I think you should expect it to be rolled out in Canada for sure and proposed in the United States. Now, will they go along with this nonsense in the US like they go along with it in Australia and like they'll likely go along with it in Canada? Who knows? That's remains to be seen. But prepare for these types of proposals in the U.S. moving forward. Let's go right over to my Twitter feed.
I can agree to that together.
And here it is. The title of this article that I posted from the Washington Post: Australia's new men's behavior change secretary says the job won't be easy because you know how men are. I mean, they're just the dregs of our society. And we would just live in this utopian universe if it wasn't for those men. I mean, come on. This is absolutely insane. And wait till you see their justification or lack thereof. That's how you actually know that this is totally bogus. And this is just a play for more control and for more censorship. It's blatantly obvious. But look at this. The state of Victoria appointed a parliamentary secretary for men's behavior change. And this guy's name is Tim Richardson. Tim, if you're watching this video, grab your balls, dude. Seriously.
No balls, bro.
Do you realize how big of a beta blue pill cuck you are? By actually taking a role to criticize men as a whole, in general, and say that it's up to you to use social engineering to retrain all of their defects that they just have from birth. Because we know men as a group are just toxic. And what we really need to do is control them. And ideally, we'd have just all the women and the cucks and the trans.
Right.
And everyone else. All these favored groups. We just have them control all of these terrible men. And it's not just men. It's really white, Christian, straight males.
Right.
To be more specific. I mean, this is just jaw-dropping. But
yeah, you know what? It maybe not in America, but right now the attack is on white men. But primarily. But it's men in general. Because if you look at it with the whole, and I'm just gonna draw a little bit of a parallel here. I don't know if anybody caught the whole Roland Martin Boulay support for Kamala. Black folks don't love black folks. They will throw you under the bus in an instant. And they will be just as quick to tell you what you need to do. Especially modernized women. What you need to do. You need to vote for Kamala. You need to. So it will be black men too, because they are kowtowing to the whims of this bullshit administration. I'm just going to say that. I'm putting that out there.
But at the end of the day, would you expect anything else from the trial ground for the World Economic Forum and the global elite? Basically, the trial ground for the Malthusian cult. Because think about it. The Malthusian cult, what do they want? They want fewer people. They want to decrease the birth rate. So I've got a great way of doing that. Just eliminate all the testosterone and masculinity from men. And guess what's going to happen to the birth rate? Just try to use social engineering to make boys just effectively a bad version of little girls.
Well, they've already done that because there were all kinds of drugs. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't actually compete because everybody gets a fucking participation award. Every kid's got fucking ADD. Every kid's got fucking bad behavior. So you're going to isolate the boys. It's been going on for years. Now you're feminizing the boys, turning them into girls. It's been going on for years.
And magically, in 10, 15 years, you'll see the birth rates plummet.
And the birth rates are already plummeting. We're seeing it. Like we already spoke. We spoke on Korea. We spoke on Japan. We're speaking on here in America now. The birth rate is plummeting. People are not getting married. People are not willingly just going out and having kids. Well, some are. But anyway, I digress.
like we've seen across the board in the West. So they're disguising this ruse as a way to curb domestic violence. Because what's happened, actually, let's go to this article, then we'll go back to the Twitter feed. And I want to go over to Zero Hedge because they have a fantastic summary of what's really happening behind the scenes here and what we should be watching out for. So Australia's answer to a crisis of sexist violence, an official for men's behavior change. The appointment was prompted by a spat of killings. This is not about all men, but all. Look, listen to how stupid this nonsense is. This drivel. They're contradicting themselves even within one sentence. They can't even say a sentence without contradicting themselves. And what's one thing that we have learned definitively since 2020? Whenever the central planners, politicians, authoritarians are saying something that contradicts other things that they've said or something that doesn't make sense, you know that it's propaganda.
Yeah. The other part of this too is it's funny that they're going to concentrate on men's behavior, but they're not going to concentrate on the root of where men come from, which is healthy families. We're not talking about families. We're not talking about families in America. What's Japan doing? Giving bonuses to families that have kids. What's Korea doing? Giving bonuses to families that have kids. Tax rebates, tax credits, fucking credit from your job. You pop out your first kid, you get 70 grand. You pop out your second kid, you get another 100 grand. Now that's a way to fucking increase population and work on family values. Start creating an atmosphere for people to be able to do it. No, we're going to break down the sexes and now we're going to study men. So we're going to create more resentment. That's going to work well. Now I'm going to go back to what me and the guys were talking about before when they were, Brian, Mountain Chat was being a little bit too faithful in humanity with the thought that, well, no, it wouldn't be as many men that would be indoctrinated by a foreign actor that would do something against America via an AI bot that convinced him and nudged him into doing that, right? Wrong. Keep spewing shit like this. Keep creating programs. Just keep draining us of all our tax dollars to box us in and study us like animals. Watch how they're going to react.
It's not about all men, but all men absolutely have a role. Well, then how's it not about all men? You're saying all men have a role, but it's not about all men. What? How does that even make sense?
If you think for 1 second I can stop a piece of shit from beating on his wife, you're full of shit. Fuck that guy. Stop being a liberal retard. Lock him up under the motherfucking jail. Stop thinking, oh, it's just he's just bad he's really a good man. You have to understand, it's where he grew up. It's racism, white supremacy. Fuck you. Fuck you. And fuck your liberal laws. Look at New York. Look at fucking Chicago. Fucking California fed drunks, fucking drug addicted people, fucking alcohol to try and curb drug addiction. What the fuck? Fuck you people. You are literally destroying society. All that libtard bullshit. Oh, we need softer laws on criminals. Give them $999. The big companies can't absorb it. Fuck you. And fuck your kids. Y'all voted for this shit. Y'all are literally voting for the collapse of society.
You see, this is just, it's like they're sitting back in their evil cave or wherever they meet, and they're drinking goat's blood or whatever it is they do on their free time. And they sit there and they're almost laughing at themselves. You know what? I'm going to go out on TV, Joe, And next week, I'm going to say something that doesn't even make sense. And people are just going to buy it. And the less sense I make, then the funnier it is the next week when they all meet in the evil cave and drink goat's blood together. Did you see how ridiculous that was? That I said, do you see how ridiculous what I said was last
Speed
week
this guy up. We're gonna go
in the New York Times or whatever? And they bought it. They actually printed it.
a little bit faster.
Oh man, these people are really sheep. They sure are suckers. I can't wait till we can just herd them all together and just eradicate 4 billion of them. These mouth breathers. That all they're good for is just sucking up the resources for the people that really deserve them. I mean, this is the attitude here. They look at the average citizen in pure detest. They can't stand the sight of them. Just the normies, the average.
Well, that's also why they drain us of all our resources and nudge us and feed us bullshit. That's why every fucking year there's a Pride Month and all these companies change their logos. That's why Black History Month, all these companies change. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about your Black history. No one cares about your Black history. No one cares about who you fuck during your Rainbow Month. No one cares. All they care about is that you saw your little rainbow, you saw your little Harriet Tubman, and you gave them some fucking money. That's why I posted on Facebook, Black History Month, go buy a new TV. I'm sure there's a sale somewhere, Negroes. Because that's all it is. No one gives a fuck about you. I'm going to say it again for the 8th graders. No one cares about you. No big business gives 2 shits about you. Fucking stop patronizing these people. Stop thinking that you actually matter for a fucking month. You don't.
Joe and Jane. They just make them sick to their stomach that they even have to live on the same planet. I mean, and if you think I'm exaggerating, no. Do your own research, man. Just read the stuff. Listen to their videos. Go on the World Economic Forum's website. Read about their God and Savior, Thomas Malthus. I'm not making this stuff up. And you say, George, well, maybe they're just good intentioned. I mean, okay, so we've had violence. That's obviously a domestic violence. It's a problem in Australia, so why shouldn't they address it? Aha, that's where the facts actually come into play. Because look at how they're framing this. I've highlighted the first paragraph or sentence. As Australia grapples with a wave.
And you know what? I don't know about Australia, but in America, actually, the woman-on-woman relationships have outmarked the man and woman domestic issues. Women are a lot more brutal to one another.
Of violence against women that the Prime Minister has called a national crisis. One state now has designated official in charge of one of the biggest potential solutions.
Fair use, fair
changing
use.
men's behavior. So first, let's address the potential solution, right? So what they have is, now, is this a problem? Well, of course, any murder, any violence is a problem. But to think that you've got a guy that's, let's say, addicted to drug, obviously has mental issues, and commits murder, to think that he would not have committed murder if he just would have been in a good old-fashioned 12-step program. If we just could have got him and talked some sense into him and let him know that you don't need to take your aggression out by shooting your wife.
Oh, you tear down mental health facilities, you tear down mental health studies, you tear down what people actually need. You slam everybody with neighborhoods full of cops and no kind of compassion. What the fuck do you think people are going to act like? Who's going to address that? Defund the police instead of redirect funds to maybe perhaps have a second unit that can handle crisis and mental health issues. So we're not out here just deleting people that have mental issues or ignoring them or shoving them in the system, giving them more complications and causing more crime. Y'all voted for this. We get what we deserve in this fucking country. Men, we have to step outside of this and we have to beat them at their own game and be better people. We have to. We have to beat them at their own game. We have to support one another. We have to lift one another up, and we have to beat them at this game. We cannot let them win and create more programs to oppress us.
For the 12 gauge, all you have to do is go out and play a little golf, or maybe you can go to the bingo parlor on Friday nights, or maybe join your local bowling league. Sure. Or maybe why don't you go out and do a gay march? And that'll solve the problem. Then you can get out your aggression there, and then you won't go around killing people. I mean, who are we trying to kid? This is absurd to think that you could take someone that has a predisposition, is mentally ill to the point of killing another human being, and that all they needed was a little old-fashioned TLC from a blue pill beta male cuck, and that would have solved the problem. Then instead of going around killing people with their 12 gauge, they would have just gone around the whole entire neighborhood and given everyone a big, gigantic hug.
Right.
I mean, this is...
Not to mention
And
Australia.
honestly, it's hard for me to
very,
even do a
very
video on this because it's
long.
so completely absurd. But let's get back into the facts, because you have this national crisis where they have to put someone in charge of, oh, by the way, not just social engineering, not just re-education, but what do you think they're going to do? They're going to start censoring people online, and they're going to start censoring men. And I can assure you, the next time that they lock everyone in a cage for climate change or whatever the reason is for the next lockdowns in Australia, that any man that goes online and says, yeah, these lockdowns are bullshit. Oh, we got to turn his computer off really quick. Well, why are you turning his computer? Isn't that against his rights? Aren't you violating his privacy? Oh, no. Are you kidding me? Because we know that lockdowns protect women and children. And by him opposing the lockdowns, well, that's really what he's doing, is he's committing violence against women. And we've got a task force for that.
Women and children, not families. Women and children, women and children, women and children. Not families. Not family education, family programs, family counseling.
Shame. In fact, we won't even turn off his computer. We should just take him straight to jail. How about if you oppose bigger government? Oh, well, you know that the government is all for women. So if you oppose bigger government, then you oppose women. Then we'd have the right to turn off your computer, censor you from social media. And why not just throw you in jail too? Because you're part of the problem. You see, this is where this is headed. And this is the genesis of the idea. They're just masking. They're just spinning it with, oh my gosh, and they're creating this frenzy because of some domestic violence, which, is it real? Absolutely. But is it a problem that can be solved with a bureaucrat? I mean, let's get real. And by the way, let's go into the actual data. You'll notice, and I'll go through this article a little bit more, but you have no data in this article at all. Isn't that weird? You would think that all of these central planners and their brilliance and genius and all their task forces would actually have some data and some charts that we could look at. But there's a reason they don't show you a chart. I'll show you why. Let's go back over to my Twitter feed. And here is the chart. Because remember, this is all about these women being killed, and this is a national crisis. Well, look at what has happened to the intimate partner homicide rate going all the way back to 1990 in Australia to 2023. And this is the rate per 100,000 population age 18 years and over. What is this? I see a massive decline. Wow. The green line represents homicide against women. And oh, by the way, the gray line represents homicide against men. But we don't need to care. We don't need to address that at all. No. No, if some men get shot here and there, well, it is what it is. But if some women get shot, well, now again, we can use that and we can spin it to get people caught up in this emotional frenzy to where they give us more power, control, and they allow us to censor the public.
And the thing is, the reason why this is starting in Australia is because Australia is very, 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 very emotional, very, 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 very liberal. And I don't know if you follow the news or not, but recently in Australia, there was a mass attack in a mall. A gentleman wielding a knife walked around and was poking people with the knife and deleted a few individuals. RIP to them, no disrespect. But the problem is the knee-jerk reaction. Everybody freaking out. Men, we have to get ahead of this. We have to. Because they will continue to swing this liberal pendulum, and it's going to smack us dead in the face, especially here in America. We have to be aware of this, and we have to do better.
And again, we're going to go over this Zero Hedge article because they summarize this brilliantly. So and let's look at this again. So the violence, most likely, or the homicide, the amount of females that killed males. So the males are the guys getting shot in the head with the 12 gauge back in 1994 was actually higher than the amount of males.
Thanks for joining, Josh. You have a good night, buddy.
That are killing females today. So again, I'm not saying this isn't a problem, but it sure as hell isn't a problem that's going to be fixed by government. I can assure you of that. And if anything, government is going to make it worse. Look at this uptick when it flattened out and started trending higher. And again, it's still trending lower. I mean, let's be honest, but this little uptick right here that they're referring to. And of course, they refer to this in the article, but they refer to this uptick. They say it's up 28%, but they don't show you this chart showing how massively it has decreased over the last 30 years. And oh, by the way, it's decreased over 30 years tremendously without government involvement, without Tim Richardson, the quintessential beta male blue pill cuck. Without Tim and without Jacinda and without the central planners, it somehow came down on its own. Imagine that. So how about we just get out of the way and let it continue to trend down?
Imagine humans acting human and being able to control themselves and becoming more civil over, what do you say, 30 years? But one incident, and that tiny little uptick, and we have to spend tax dollars on a whole government group. This country does. That Australia, right? On a government division to study men.
Oh, no. They can use this uptick to completely, it's really misinformation on their end. It's ironic, isn't it? That the people that need to save you from misinformation and disinformation are the ones that create the most misinformation and disinformation. Because
Right.
there's no way in hell they're going to show you this chart.
So it's not fake news, it's fake government. Let's be real.
And before we get back to the other, the CNBC article and the Zero Hedge article, I want to point out here that these are the same people that claim that men and women are identical physically and psychologically. So if men and women are identical physically and psychologically,
Equality, right? Equality.
and if more men are involved in violent acts, well, then it obviously has to do with something other than the fact they are men. Because if it's true that they're creating these acts because of their sex or because of their gender, then that would imply that there's differences between the genders. So which is it? Which is it? Jacinda, Tim, which is it? You see, they can't answer that question.
What is
Why?
it?
Because it contradicts every other one of their worldviews that they espouse on you, which shows you that this is propaganda bullshit 101. Let's get back to the CNBC article. Here you go. Statistics suggest gender-based violence in Australia is getting worse. Really? Really? How can you say that with a straight face? The only way you can is if you know you are lying. You know you're lying because you didn't look at the data. And if you did, you purposely excluded it just so you could say that. According to a report from Australian Institute of Criminology released in April, intimate partner homicide committed against women increased 28%. That was that little uptick I showed you. And oh, by the way, what happens when you lock men in a cage for 2 years? Answer, you might have some unintended consequences. What happens when you take away men's purpose in life? What happens when you create a world of hopelessness for males?
Find that frontier, guys. Find those hobbies, latch onto them, and keep your minds right. Stay healthy. Work out. I mentioned it before. If you follow me on here, you should subscribe, like, hit the bell so you know when I'm going live. But if you follow me, I've lost 60 pounds recently. Been working on it for the past year. It's not easy. It's not easy. But it takes concentration and focus and determination, and you can't give up. You can't go halfway. You have to go all the way. If you set a benchmark for yourself to work out 3 times a week, do it.
Usually it doesn't end well. What happens when you take away their sense of self-worth? When you're constantly criticizing them from a very young age at how bad they are and how toxic their gender is. And then they grow up with no positive male role models, no powerful, strong
Absolutely.
male role models with integrity and character. What happens then?
And that's what else we have to do, gentlemen. We talked about leadership earlier. Be those leaders. Be those mentors. Remember, you're not always going to find somebody that's going to be receptive. It might not be their time. So invest your time wisely, but invest in others. Be there for somebody. Be there for your families. Be present for your children if you're not with the mother. That should be your only goal. Continue to support those children, especially if it's a male.
When they're raised by single mothers and they go to school and all the teachers are female. And then they think it's
talked about
good.
this at the
Well, I
beginning.
just have to be like a girl. And then you get all this.
About this at the beginning. Let's go back, y'all. Let's go back. Hold on. Pause. We're going back. Let me go get this right quick. Boom. Right there. He's talking about it. 43% of boys are raised by single mothers. 78% of teachers are female. The only male teachers I had were coaches.
Testosterone building up, and they're rudderless. And then you lock them in a cage for 2 years, and the only thing that gave them purpose was their job and their ability to provide. You take it away from them and basically make them dependent upon the state. What do you think is going to happen? So, like everything else, this is the government playing the role of the arsonist and the firefighter. But isn't that mysterious how it just started to go up in 2021? I mean, who could have predicted that?
Right after the pandemic.
And so one of these
perfect point
psychopaths,
history,
last name is Fitz.
a perfect point in history to show how humans have not adjusted well. The pandemic. Coming out of the pandemic, people were half-assed doing their jobs. So during the pandemic, we already knew that violence was going to rise for individuals who were trapped with their abusers. We knew that was going to happen. Anybody who was intelligent knew that was going to happen. Those are the statistics showing it. That's not a public resurgence of some kind of thing. Those are isolated situations that we knew would happen. You'd be an idiot if you didn't think that those statistics would increase. Don't have too much faith in humanity, people. Don't do that. You're playing games with yourself if you do that. Be realistic about how you view humanity and you view society. I'm not going to spiral. Gentlemen, we need to do better.
Dash Gibbon, which is a dead giveaway that she's a feminist right there in the first place. Whenever a gal has two last names, you know, and this is just a general rule. Obviously, there's exceptions, but whenever a gal has two last names, you know, two things are true. Number one, feminist. Number two, the probability that she gets a divorce is like 99%.
Yeah, women with the hyphenated last names always get divorced, and they're also very, very feminist because God forbid they actually take on the man's name, because that just shows possession.
Throughout my experience, I got a lot of anecdotal evidence with a lot of my friends and
patriarchy.
That's the way the cookie crumbles. Let's get back to the article here. So Fitzgibbon countered that violence against women cannot be addressed without engaging those who are most often responsible for it. So again, let's think about this through the lens of contradiction and therefore propaganda. So if I said to Fitzgibbon, I said, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. We need to engage and address and acknowledge those who are most often responsible for committing the crime. So, Miss Fitzgibbon, would you also suggest that we do that in the United States? But not just with genders. How about with races, with ethnicities?
Yeah, how about that?
Do you suggest we do that, Miss Fitzgibbon?
Right. Let's curb all the violence, Miss.
See where I'm going with that. Of course, she would back off. Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. We cannot look at this in terms of race and ethnicity. If 80% of the population is committing, or if 10% of the population is committing 80% of the crime, we cannot dive into the details there.
No,
this is just men against women.
We can't.
And men commit all the crime. We
Right.
don't want to take it a step further.
Yeah.
See,
we're not even going to look at.
do I think that we?
And then again, we're not even looking at same-sex relationships, which have spiked for domestic violence. Ladies,
should break things down by race and ethnicity? No, I'm not saying that. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. I'll leave that up to you to decide. What I'm doing is I'm pointing out the hypocrisy here, the absolute hypocrisy, which proves further that this is pure, unadulterated propaganda to increase their power control over your life. And more specifically, to make sure that there's no uprisings in the future when they exercise their power and control and implement their Malthusian Marxist agenda. Let's go right over to Zero Hedge. And I'm just going to read it right here, because this is fantastic. Well done, Zero Hedge. The development of totalitarian governments always coincides with sweeping efforts to socially engineer the population to adhere to less rebellious behaviors. Specifically, groups that present a threat to the regime are usually identified and targeted with propaganda or indoctrination. In tandem, the rest of the population is also conditioned to fear those groups and treat them with suspicion. In this way, the establishment elites mold the more submissive public into a shield that protects them from the revolutionaries that might dethrone them. But what happens when the social engineers want to create tyranny on a global scale? The list of possible rebels grows exponentially larger, and efforts to control them all or demonize them all become far more complex. How can the elites simplify their agenda and suppress the public with more efficiency? The only answer is to attack and cripple the largest subset of the population that is most likely to give them problems in the future.
So there's nothing like analyzing what makes men, destabilizing them, and in turn, destabilizing your government and security of your nation. So, unless every country in the world is going to roll out some kind of regime change like this, you're going to have undefended shores. Because just like me and the guys talked about earlier, they'll shoot you in the face when you come to draft them. Because they have no hope and no loyalty to you as a government because you've been shitting on them. Good luck with this. I'll probably be dead before any of this has any impact on me. But over the next 30, 40 years, it's going to be hell.
Which monolithic group has more likely or is more likely to fight back against the system? Answer: masculine men.
Yeah,
that's what this is all
men.
about.
Hamstring masculine men, hamstring masculinity, label it toxic, and you have nobody to defend you. Because now you're insulting generation after generation after generation of man that you expect to just want to freely die for your country. Okay.
All right, crazy stuff, guys. On that note, try to enjoy the rest of your afternoon and make sure, especially in today's day and age.
All right, everybody. I'm going to close out on that. That was Rebel Capitalist. Gentlemen, if he at all is interesting to you, I do recommend you go subscribe to his channel. All right, recap. We had Mountain Chad on here tonight. We had Rican Muslim. We explored a little bit from Bo Refik and, of course, Rebel Capitalist. I'm going to close out here on painful, hard pills to swallow. Many school shooters are products of broken homes. The link is in the description for this stream. So I do encourage, if you are interested in looking at some real world statistics from fixfamilycourts.com, you do so. Single mother home statistics, we don't need to dive into that today because we know that is an epidemic and is the feeder for the home to prison pipeline and or home to street pipeline in the case of women. Fatherless home statistics. Fatherlessness has become a concerning trend, with a significant number of children growing up without an engaged father or an involved father. No resentment there. How you doing, Dad? The following statistics share light on the prevalence and impact of fatherless homes on society. 63% of youth deletions, self-deletions, are from fatherless homes. 63%. I can also tell you, most definitely, in a lot of those fatherless homes, the mothers just serve their daughters up. So, hey, this may be women and men. 63% of youth deletions, self-deletions are from fatherless homes. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. Again, under the care of their mothers, probably escaping abuse. 90%, 85% of all children who have behavioral disorders, fatherless homes. 80% of rapists and men who do things vile to women, fatherless homes. 80%, 80%. 71% of all high school dropouts, no daddy. 75% of all adolescents in chemical abuse centers, drug addicted youth, no daddy. 70% of juveniles in state operated institutions locked up, no daddy, no discipline, no coverage, no learning, no strength, no leadership. 85% of all youth sitting in prison grew up in a fatherless home. Gentlemen, we have to do better. We have to. There's no excuses for us anymore. There's no mealy mouth around about this anymore. There's no pandering anymore. We have to do better. Period. Period. There's no way around this. As men, we have to ask for help when we need it. We have to humble ourselves. We have to seek it. when we have friends that we want to talk to, when we need a friend and someone to talk to, we do that. It's not unmanly. It's not low testosterone to ask for help. We need it. We're humans. And what's happened is the humanity is being stripped from us. Do the work, gentlemen. Build your character stats sheet. Build who you are as a man. Get your intelligence up. Get your charisma up. Get your strength up. Get your money up. Build your character sheet just like you're in a damn video game, bro. Build that shit. Find a new frontier. Find hobbies. Find things that take your mind away from the 9 to 5. Find things that help increase your mental capacity, things that help build your mind a little bit. There are no frontiers that are not made for you, other than things that are for women. But there are no frontiers that aren't made for you. There are so many activities and so many hobbies in the world, almost limitless, that we can participate in to build our character even better. Leave your neighborhoods. Leave your states. Don't just go on a beach or go to Disneyland or go on a roller coaster in another state. That's all you do. Go somewhere else and honestly explore and learn something. And work on leadership. Work on your confidence. Work on building who you are in society so that you can step out and have strength that others will see, that women will appreciate, and that will build you up to support a family in the future, or build you up to support your family better now. It's not too late. Build bridges, build yourself bigger. All right, gents? This is tough shit. This is our lives, though, and life is short. We have to make a positive impact. All right. One love to all of y'all. I want to say thank you very much to everybody who was here in the chat this evening. Shout out to all of y'all. The support is always great here in the community. Thank you so much again. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for this channel. All right. Hit that damn bell so you know where I'm at and when I'm going live. Hit up my community wall, see all the things that I post out there. Y'all know how I run my mouth about society, culture, knowledge, and entertainment, right? So thank you again, everybody, for joining me tonight. Shout out to Rican Muslim and, of course, Mountain Chad. All the links to all of the content that I covered in this stream are in the description. Feel free to peruse on your own, gentlemen. Feel free to take in some knowledge from the sources that I did discuss here tonight. And peace. Big up yourselves. Everybody have a wonderful night.
Nancy feels that a newspaper has the obligation to deliberately deal with those things which demand public attention. How do you feel about the controversy?
Basically, the fan behaves the same on Joe's suit. When I first turned the power on, or just prior to that, he's drawing 0.6 amps. It goes off scale high for a few seconds, falls back down to about...
The CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite.
Well, first I jumped to 9.
It was a provoking challenge, and nowhere did the challenge provoke more
Averaging a peak to peak, I'd say